You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 2 of Buried Below, Lost Boys.
Cut. There are times like that where I like lock in. I'm like, God, I really was born to be a performer. You know, I'm like, I got it. Let's go. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. That was good.
That was good. I think we can officially clip this as the start of the episode. Yeah.
Will you scoot in so your chair's like touching the table?
I can.
It makes the frame a little bit more even.
I thought I had been unintentionally scooting in for like several episodes and was trying to rectify the decision. So literally like 10 minutes ago, I like hauled my chair away.
Good.
And now you're like, get over here.
Yeah, what are you doing over there?
I've been reading too much fiction for you to say that to me right now. Way too much rom-com fiction. The levels of disassociation I am in now.
I'm reading what I thought would be like a fun little romance novel. No romance yet.
Well, hold on.
Like their knees touch and I'm like...
Are you at 51% of the book yet? Because that's when it happens. It always happens at 51% of the book.
I don't know. I'm at chapter like 1 something. It's one of the online ones, so I don't actually know where
Chapter
I'm
like 100 or literally chapter 1?
No, chapter 100 something. Maybe even 200 something. I don't remember. Let's look.
I had the heartbreaking realization recently of reading a book that had a really exciting chapter in it.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, right, this is the page turn. Like I thought you hated me. I thought you hated me. What? I was like, all right. Oh, now we're just holding hands and saying positive words of affirmation to each other.
No, get in each other's pants.
Exactly. But they did such a good job building out this world's political structure that I was hooked.
So bad. Like, what you realize, you're like reading the book and you're like, well, that country shouldn't have done that because of the geopolitical relations with that country. And then you're like, I'm in so deep
Am
right
I
now.
really reading this for the plot?
Yeah. I never thought I'd be here.
Okay, friends. So right before we just started screaming into our mics about fiction, we're doing okay. We just recorded our newest ad that we're excited to start running. So I was responsible for writing it, which is why it's about a month and a half late. And that's me being generous.
No comment.
Okay. Oh, no, the huge guttural instinctual laugh before you could stifle it. That was your comment. Don't you worry. We all got it.
I could be mad if I'm not doing the exact same thing with like 5 other tasks, Grant.
I really do feel proud of myself for executing at like 101% today. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually really tired of that.
Exhausted.
I'd be in a much better position right now if I only got about 85% of what I needed done.
That's fair. There's like that max level of happiness, you know?
I'm actually really afraid because this is kind of my first unstructured moment all day. It was school, immediately school, home, change, gym, get the workout in, come back. I'm eating like a sandwich, and I never eat sandwiches. So you know I am
That's
down bad.
Desperate, yeah.
If I am making cold cut sandwiches for dinner, I'm like with one hand
Still
typing.
so impressive to me.
Thank you. But now I'm here, and I'm like, I can just be free. I can be me. No, I don't need to be on a time schedule anymore.
Good.
Because I was trying to say a story, and now I'm here. So anyways, listener, we just recorded our podcast advertisement. Ad?
Sure.
And
spot.
As part of that work, I went back and listened to our original, what's this about? Are we recording that underwater? Why does it sound the way that it sounds?
It's because the mics are so bad that I had to like hella compress it to where it sounded remotely professional.
Right.
So yeah, these ones will sound a lot better.
I'm clearly just so used to now our current level of like audio equipment and like sound paneling and stuff.
I went back to listen to the first little bit of Michael Malloy for like some reason the other day. I was feeling sad. I don't know. And I was like, how did people listen to this? Will you turn that on?
When people are like, I've been here since episode 3, I've always been like,
whoa.
You're a homie. And now I'm like, whoa, you really don't care if the podcast is bad. Like you really just like
the
us,
content has always been okay. The quality has gotten a lot better.
Don't look at it. Yeah. Don't look at it. Don't look at it.
Every time.
So dumb. I just turned on a light, and like for 2 years now, it's impossible for me to turn on one of our studio lights without looking. Staring directly
You're like,
at the
well,
ball.
is it on? I don't know how I'll know unless I'm looking at it.
There's 2 settings that make remarkably different lights. How will I know if I'm not staring directly at it? What setting it's on?
One of them is a strobe, guys.
Yeah. So if you've been here from the beginning, hi, welcome, thank you.
First of all, thank you.
If you're brand new, I would like to say that we're a bit more organized.
We're not.
Like, for instance, if you are a representative of the company Springfield Underground, this isn't necessarily always how we start off the episode, but you and
Look
I...
at you and your investigative journalism getting more listeners one by one.
Oh, are you kidding? Listen, last night, because I'm trying not to be on my phone,
Yeah.
and I couldn't keep my eyes open enough to keep reading my book, but I wasn't yet ready to go to sleep yet.
Yes.
It was quiet hours of the mind, as Emily Dickinson might say.
Okay.
I was referencing a book I just read.
Oh, good. Jesus.
I was like, now I have to go to Springfield, Missouri and do an episode specifically about the truth around Springfield Underground.
Yeah.
And then I had this crazy dream where I was the first public tour they ever gave. And then I fell asleep.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. It's a pretty cool dream. Not a lot of people have these kind of dreams, but I do.
Springfield, Missouri, please keep listening. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. You're under no obligation.
So life's been pretty good. Life has been pretty spectacular.
Nice. Good. I didn't really do anything since we last met.
Yeah.
What did I do? Oh, we went to jazz on
Yeah.
Friday night.
Yeah,
that was fun. And then
Sorry, do you guys know that episode of Broad City where Abby becomes Val when she blacks out drunk? When she's
No.
blackout drunk? Okay. So you know Broad City.
no. You gonna tell the story?
I don't know. Sorry. It'd be like, I don't know, I've never seen a yellow light before. Like, I don't know how I'm
That's
supposed to
just not
fold
how
that
that
in.
works.
I don't know how I'm supposed to fold that into my knowledge of you. I've known you for 2 years.
Okay, I'm sure there are things that I have seen that you have not.
It feels like you're telling me right now, I'm like, what do you mean we've had an open relationship for the last No, I'm kidding. I'm not talking about sports podcast. Okay, well, whatever. There's this character. God, I can't believe you don't. Do I even tell you? Yeah, of course I do.
No, because if you don't tell me, they'll all get mad.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Gosh, I really am trying to stay focused today.
I can tell.
It's not working,
No.
but I'm fighting more than I usually do.
I'm proud of you.
There's an episode of Broad City
Yes.
where one of the two main characters, Abby, and they're, girls in their 20s in New York City, right? And like, that's the whole thing. Broad City.
Yes. Yeah.
When Abby gets really drunk in one episode, she blacks out and does that thing
Becomes her
20-year-olds
alternate
do.
personality, yeah.
No. So it kind of like runs away. You know how like sometimes when you're in
Oh.
your 20s and you have had too much
I'm
to
a runner,
drink.
I'm a track star.
Correct. And you just kind of disappear and
Yes.
you go on your own adventure, but your friend has to follow you because you are a danger to yourself and others. So her friend...
See, I do that, but I'm not a danger to myself and others, and I just have really quaint adventures, and I recommend it.
And that is why Casey goes to F45.
Yes. He's at solid core right now. Pray for him.
Good. So Alana, her friend, follows Abby and she enters this like side door that goes down to the basement. And then it's like a screenshot from like the side door to this basement. And suddenly Abby has like a black fedora on. And everyone's like, Val, how's it going, Val? And she's just this blues jazz club night singer.
I love that.
And she has no idea about any of it the next morning when her friend Alana's like,
Oh, that's
who's Val?
so funny.
And Abby's like, I don't know. Who is Val? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then if you go back to the very first episode, right? Like the opening sequence of this show,
Yeah.
it's like kind of chaotic camera held stuff.
Right,
They're like
yeah.
trying to make it onto a subway. It's like New York City at its strangest and finest,
Yes.
right? In like the first 2 minutes of the show, this old woman on the subway looks at Abby and goes, Val. And they're kind of like freaked out and turn away because it's the first episode of the entire show.
You
just
don't know
think
what
it's-
they're talking about,
Right.
yeah.
You just think it's like, oh, woman yelled at you on the subway in New York. Like classic experience,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You gotta watch Broad City. I
Okay.
can't believe you haven't.
Okay. What is it on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
probably,
what I thought.
Probably Hulu. No,
Okay.
it's not like a YouTube short. Like it's
It's gone forever,
no, it's
Grant.
Hulu
It's no
origi-
longer available.
I'm not talking about the brief and gay wonderful life of Caleb Gallo or
Yeah,
whatever.
that I will watch snippets that you show me. I'm too scared to watch the whole thing.
See, and this is how I knew if you were a queer man, you would just come over for dinner one night where we would both inexplicably sit on the floor and watch YouTube videos together. That is my culture.
It's so weird.
It's gay culture to make your friends sit through like the longest, worst YouTube video they've ever seen in their entire life.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're screaming like, "Isn't this iconic?"
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait, my favorite part's coming up.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't.
And then if you talk at all, they rewind it and they're like, now pay attention. I know because Tyler's done that to me.
Hey, what do you think Tyler and I do when we get around when we hang out with each other?
Yeah, that's fair. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Or like if the laugh wasn't big enough, we will also rewind
we'll try it again.
Hey, all right. It's kind of like live theater, right? You gotta laugh.
Yeah.
The show can't go on.
Did you not get it?
The way I have hostilely turned my whole body to you and just completely disregarded the camera.
They're not here anymore, apparently.
Right. What's going on? Yeah, talk to me about your life for a little bit.
Well, let me turn this on Do Not Disturb. You have my full attention now.
Good.
So Maddie came over on Saturday night and we had a little movie night.
Cute.
And I forget just like how much Maddie and I are kind of the same person because she came over. We did a little of the not drinking but still inebriation
having
thing.
A good time.
You know, we were having a good time. We just sat by the window.
Had a classic Colorado moment.
Had a Colorado moment and chatted and listened to. She was recently in New York City for her work, and her work bought tickets for all of them to go see Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she missed Aaron Tveit, I want to say his last name is, by like 3 days. Have you seen clips of him? Grant.
The only way I would have seen clips of it is if you had sent those clips to me.
I have sent them
from
to
Moulin Rouge.
I'm fairly confident. Hold, please, because I can't let you not.
I get so much Hadestown content now, and that's not a complaint. That needs to be registered.
I got Mayomi content the other day, like the wine brand.
The wine brand.
Yeah.
That's so funny. They're trying to brand themselves as like a dude wine.
Yeah.
Because the first half of that commercial, I'm like, yeah, your boyfriend's coming over. And then it was like, and then they're like playing video games, but not in that way. And I'm like, oh, wait, are you just trying to get more dudes to drink wine? Listen, they're not paid sponsors of this program, but I fully recommend
I haven't
Mayomi.
sent it to you. I did send it to Casey, though.
I was going to say, I'm a listener.
Okay. Just like, this is Roxanne, you know.
Roxanne.
Yeah, but it's like the ballad de Roxanne, and it's just like... I sent that to Casey with the comment, tell me you're not a little wet right now.
I actually think two things. They're conjoining thoughts. I think it's great we kept making musicals after Moulin Rouge because like I felt like, for the most part, we cracked the formula, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that same way about movies after Greta Gerwig's Little Women. I'm like, I don't know why cinema continued to exist after that movie.
I mean, fair.
I continually walk around thinking of myself as Amy with Joe tendencies, when in reality I'm Beth. Gonna die first.
Okay, back to me and Maddie.
Oh, right. I told you I am fighting for attention tonight. I'm sorry.
Too. We sat there, had a little Colorado moment, listened to theater soundtracks like a mixture of Moulin Rouge and like Hadestown and some other random stuff. And then the reason I invited her over was I was like, I have songs I want to show you, but like we need to like lay down on the ground first and like just like lay on the ground and like not talk, but just like listen to songs because we've done that before. And I was like, I want to go back to that. And you're the only person I know that Grant will talk. Grant will talk the whole time. Tyler will want to show me some weird pop song.
It's how you know I'm appreciated.
I know. We listened to, there's a Grammy nominated song that's like a Grammy nominated arrangement. That's a song, a rearrangement of The Sound of Silence, but it has a full orchestra behind it. And it's just like beautiful. And then we listened to all of the other things that were competing against it for the Grammys while we were a little on our Colorado break.
Colorado moment.
Yeah, Colorado moment. We ordered Thai food, went and picked that up, came back, watched 2 comedy specials. While also drawing on craft supplies that she brought.
Okay, so that is almost...
We did almost no talking. It was amazing.
A lot of that is like every single episode of the show Pen 15. Have you seen that?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. I saw it advertised.
Okay.
I'm doing shit in my life, Grant. I'm not always watching TV. Boo.
I have time to witness the culture as well. Anyways, then the second thing I was going to say... We've gotten like 5 messages, so a handful of people since the election being like, hey, so if it's not too weird, could I ask you some questions about what it's like to move to Colorado?
off because we are a blue island out here with like 100%. New Mexico or something. Is it New Mexico or Arizona?
Well, here's the thing. We're just holed up in our little mountain fortress, right? We work 4 days a year. Here's the thing. Because what Maia just described is a quintessential Colorado evening.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Denver's wonderful. It's everything you think it is. Caleb Hebron has this joke where he goes, anytime one of my friends in LA tells me they're moving to Denver, I'm like, hold on, be right there. I'll be there in 5. You're clearly going through something. Yeah. And that's such a funny joke, and I get it, because when I moved here, I was. And I moved here from California. But it's a good place. It's a good place.
I love it.
It's a good place.
There's a reason I'm never leaving.
Right, exactly.
I had a couple friends that left the state after college, just like going wherever the job was, you know? And the majority of them, even some like after high school that went out of state for college, that came back after a year. Like they were like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do here? And then I was like, okay, well, I'm never leaving.
Right. I'm realizing I'm a Coloradan.
No, you're not.
Oh.
I'm kidding. You are. But be careful.
Oh, okay. Oh. No, it's wonderful.
I'm kidding.
Last little update, I think, from my own life. Because, same. I mean, we recorded on Thursday. Yeah. I've been kind of supporting myself off of the remnants of the cheese that we had from that night, which was wonderful.
Yes.
But it was like Friday was wonderful, but I worked, and then there was jazz, and then I woke up and I worked, and I came home and I fell asleep because there was a debate tournament.
Because you texted me, and I was like, oh, you good?
On a bus. No, I had no coffee. I was not good at all. And then I texted you again when I was on the back on the bus going home. And then immediately fell asleep. And then on Sunday, which was yesterday, dear listener, for us, I only did like 4 hours of work. So I got like a mostly a break. I know.
Yeah, that's so good.
Thank you.
Casey and I organized our basement. I was so unhappy about the whole thing. He was like, okay, well, I needed to go run an errand. And so I was like, I'll do that. It was going to take a couple hours and then I'll come back and then we can do that. And I came back and he was watching the football game and I was like, oh, do you maybe like want to keep watching the football game and like we can do it like after? And he was like, no, we'll do it at halftime. And I was like, okay, interesting. How long does 2 minutes in the second quarter last? Turns out a long time.
100% it does, yeah. I mean, there's the whole 2 minute timeout.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I really don't want to do this. And Casey was like, it's only going to take like an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think that's how it's going to work.
How much stuff do you have in your basement?
It's just like a storage unit stuff that we've like periodically gone down there to like rifle through shit to like try and find stuff. It's like the stuff that we packed that was in a storage unit, but some of it was...
I pack, I believe, my entire home in 2 hours.
Okay, you didn't live here and then your parents give you all of your childhood stuff. I still have a storage unit to like unpack. I have a treadmill I have to figure out what to do with.
The idea of like liquidating everything I own and just like traveling is so attractive to me, but you can't travel on like $900.
No.
You know, like I own actually so few things.
I mean, I admire that. I thought about trying the minimalist lifestyle. It turns out I am a maximalist to the core.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think, shout out to all us single ladies out there, when you have to build your own storage, like shelving and things like that, you end up throwing a lot of stuff away.
Oh, I did and I didn't. I'm a hoarder at heart.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I know, but that's okay.
It's fine. We're here. Say it, Grant.
No, not anymore. Definitely not anymore.
He's looking at my bookshelf that's like still a mess.
It's not a mess. It's just untouched.
Yeah.
Friends, Anna is like a horse's bridle, a mine's cup, the kind of like fish tackle box kind of situation going on.
That's all of our cables. Lotion. That's the podcast cables.
I'm just painting a visual picture for them because this is an audio platform. Last thing I have to say, and this actually fits really well, I was on the phone with my parents yesterday, right? Just doing a little Sunday check-in. And I was talking about the cheese cave incident and how funny it was that email came in online. Yeah. And I was like, because our episode's kind of like 2-3 hours long. Like we produce a lot of content every week. And as I say, And so my mom goes, I know you produce a lot of content each week. And it's like my mom is angrily at the intersection of trying to support one of her children and realizing it's a part-time job.
Yeah. She only has to listen to your episodes.
That's so sweet that you think she would track that down. And also, I think she hears from me a lot. I actually think she's more interested in yours.
Aww.
She's heard my stories for 31 years. And when I was getting into
Teresa, I love you.
I was gonna say, well, I mean, she'll hear this in 2026, but thank you.
That's fine. It'll all come back when I take her to the Brown Palace to see jazz.
One of my dear friends, who loves to listen, but definitely gets like 15 minutes in every week.
Yes.
Was like, no, Grant, it's so funny. You're talking about, and then she said one of the topics from May, and I was like, oh.
I love when they out themselves like that a little bit. I'm like, I just listened to the Unabomber actually, and I'm like, oh, okay. I actually can't talk to you about that at all because I don't remember anything. But like, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I think, truthfully, like our friends, for the most part, at least the ones that I know of that listen regularly, mostly listen to our banter at the beginning to catch up on our lives and then proceed to like turn it off. They're like, okay, I can talk to Grant and Maya when I see them next.
Of course, Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia's like, give me the story.
Lydia wants the story so badly. We are not allowed to talk about the stories in front of her still.
Which is hilarious because we're like about a month ahead right now because we're prepping for the holidays. And so
I'm like
now,
very proud of us, but I know it's not going to last.
No, we can't record next week probably.
No.
We can't record the week of like Christmas, maybe like the week after even. So we'll be ahead enough. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Lydia won't let us tell or even hint at whatever story she's telling.
Right.
She will walk out of the room if she has to.
She's been like, wait, hold on. I got to go grab something upstairs. So give me a second and then you can say whatever it is you need to say.
Yeah. Hilarious.
We love you. Thanks, girl.
Do you remember the conversation we had at the Brown Palace that I got a cackle out of you? It was very rewarding. And then you were like, I'm going to bring that up on the podcast.
I hate to say this.
You don't.
But I actually enjoyed every second of our time at the Brown Palace and thus have no specific memory of any conversation.
When we were talking about books and then Danny told us what book he was reading.
Oh. Okay, I forget. Oh, wait, there it is. Yeah. That was good. Our dear friend Danny, book nerd, inquisitive about the world, sometimes in ways we wish he was less inquisitive about, because we're like, it's like sometimes I've looked at Danny and I've been like, this is a trap.
Yeah.
Like this, you're 200.
You know the answer.
Right. You're 250 pages into how to buy our snake oil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At one point I was like, this is a totally different book, but I was like, Danny, like, this is factually wrong. And he goes, Grant, I've read like 6 books on this topic. And I go, maybe then that's because there's an industry to get people to think this is true. And that made a really quiet conversation.
Oh, no.
It's like plethora does not equal rigor.
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
Anyways, so Danny's reading like The Rise and Fall of the Neoliberal. And I like roll my eyes, but in my soul have to disagree with him on whatever he has said out loud. And before I can, Maya goes, so it's gay then.
Still really proud of that.
Because me, you, and Lydia are all reading queer fiction.
Queer novels, yeah. And you turned to Danny to like include him in the conversation about our books.
I literally go, so Danny, what are you reading right now?
Hoping it would be like, oh, I picked up Charm Offensive.
Yeah.
That.
I literally lent him 2 queer books.
The Rise and Fall of the Neoliberal.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, oh my God.
Anyway, that's all I have. Are you ready for a story?
I really am. I have no idea because my episode could not have set the tone for what you're about to do.
So my story is not going to be as like hilarious as Grant's, but it is happy. I heard. What are you looking at?
I'm confirming there seems to be no cheese stashed behind
There is
Maya.
no cheese stashed. I'm actually uncovering what you said that was wrong.
Nice,
about
good.
Last week's
Honestly,
episode.
let's keep getting deeper and deeper. You also got to get your own invite to the Springfield Underground.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I heard all of your comments about QAnon, and I don't regret doing QAnon, but I do recognize that we all need maybe a little pick-me-up after that between the holidays.
My favorite comment on our QAnon conspiracy theories, by the way, is someone commented, by the way, we lost.
Yeah, I saw that. Someone did that on our Spotify. Is that the one that you saw? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Listen,
Thanks.
that the week of, I was not in a position where I could laugh at that.
No.
Now we're in the end of week 2, start of week 3.
Now that we're
I
in the
can laugh.
resistance.
Correct. I can laugh now. Also, the last couple of days, like right after the election, there were so many Star Wars monologues on my TikTok, and part of me was also like, sure, we live in an information environment, and like art is never biased. Sorry, art is never not biased to like the political situation that arises. And they really got to start coming out with more Star Wars movies. I don't care if it was bad for the universe. They were fun little pew movies for like 2 hours over Christmas.
And then it's really fun when you make people think about it for a second in relation to our current political environment. And then they're like...
100%. America's the empire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that line from Natalie Portman's character? This is how the democracy dies, to thunderous applause.
Yeah, 100%.
I want that plastered
because the Senate
everywhere.
Awards Palpatine emergency powers.
Yeah.
Which actually follows almost word for word like how Hitler got the Reichstag to give him emergency powers.
Yep.
The curse of my history education.
I'm actually really worried you're going to know at least the first topic. The second topic I think you'll know of, but not in detail.
Is it an anthology?
There's 2, and I'll explain why at the beginning.
Okay.
Are you ready for me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is part 2 of Buried Below. I was so worried because
if it's about berries, I'm going to lose my mind. Buried below is what I just heard. Sorry. Oh, right. I'm focusing on listening.
I have literally not even said a single note that is off.
I'm being a strong listener. Let me lean in. Go ahead.
Okay. So I have an intro story that was actually going to be the story I was going to cover at first, until I was in the office and I was talking with some of my coworkers. 2 of them are really into outdoorsy stuff, and so we got talking about like some other outdoorsy incidents that have happened and stuff. And so he actually brought up something, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's the topic." But I wasn't gonna let this other one float by, you know. And so I had done a base amount of research on first topic number 1. And then I was like, screw it, I'm doing topic number 2, thinking I'm going to come back to topic number 1 because I actually didn't think there was going to be enough for a whole story anyways. And so I fleshed out topic number 2, and then I came back to topic number 1, and boy, I think I found another topic. And at some point I had to be like, I can't Google another thing about this, or else like it's going to...
I got to start putting fewer tabs on my computer.
Yeah, but you'll know, I even mentioned, I was like, this is another topic. Don't even fucking think about stealing it.
Okay, so it's locked in for you 5 sure.
Yes, yeah.
The real joy of this podcast for you and I, it's given us the chance to assign ourselves book reports.
It's really, but book reports we're interested in, you know?
Yes, no,
like,
100%.
I haven't really done any story that I've been like, nah, could forget about it. If you quiz me on them, I'm not going to remember everything.
Right.
But
We've done a lot of reading the last 2 years.
Oh my God. Okay, anyway. So the first story, we're in Seattle. We're at June 6th, 1889.
1889? Okay.
1889. It's about 2:30 p.m. Seattle has just experienced an unusually dry and warm spring, which coincidentally has led to a limited water supply. Specifically, we're in the Pontius building, which at the time is located on Front Street, which I believe is now either like First or Main or something, and Madison Avenue. And there's a woodworking shop called Claremont and Company, which is owned and operated by a man named Victor Claremont. And I believe this shop was focused on cabinetry. Do you know where I'm going yet?
I have a guess, but I don't want to ruin anything.
Okay, cool. You lock that in somehow. I don't know.
No, there's a whole story that's locking it in.
Okay.
You'll know.
Okay, cool. Know. So there's a pot of heated glue that they use, like wood glue, kind of. And I saw 2 different accounts of what happens next. Either burst into flame.
Nice.
Or tipped over.
Okay.
Either way.
Definitely the second. Definitely claimed it was the first.
Yeah.
Insurance has worked that way forever.
So, Grant, what do you know about the flammability of woodworking spaces?
Oh, Well, I mean, I did do a whole episode on the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. So I'm aware that oil in old wooden factories is a recipe for labor laws later.
I mean, yes.
Now put these immigrants in unsafe working conditions. Check back 3 to 5 years later, you're going to have a really nice worker safety board. But for right now, I'm guessing it doesn't go well for the people in Seattle.
So it's hella combustible. There's there's shavings on the floor.
I heard pelican combustible for a second.
Hella combustible. Pelican combustible. Okay. It was covered in shaving. The floor was covered in shavings, like wood shavings and turpentine. And so everything just kind of like immediately goes up in flames. And at the time, buildings were primarily made from wood. So the building caught fire as well. And I want everyone to know, I know it sounds dark. No one dies, I think. There is one account that suggests maybe one boy named James Goyne died, but there's not really a lot of reliable records to prove that fact.
Okay.
But aside from that, there are no fatalities, human fatalities in the fire. About 1 million rodents died.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I saw multiple sources that said 1 million rodents.
How does Seattle in 1886, it's like a 3-year-old city at this point, have 1 million rodents? And how on earth are the humans, which are noticeably much larger than rodents, getting out, but the rodents aren't?
Truthfully have no idea.
Is this maybe Seattle historical fiction spinning? They're like, come to Seattle, sure, we just had a fire. You know what that means? No more rats.
Rodents.
Exactly. Come to our recently rodent-free city. Now with the smell of fresh cut wood.
Well, I mean, it does do a lot for the population. The population after this does increase, but we'll get to that in a second. So the fire right now is just at Victor's woodworking shop. And then it spreads into the neighboring store, which is called Dietz and Mayer Liquor Store. And what do you know about alcohol and fire?
Also pretty combustible.
Yeah, also pretty combustible. So it literally meets the two shops that are like, whoosh.
They had a wood shaving factory and a liquor shop right next to each other.
I think so.
I love a lack of regulations.
Yeah. So literal fuel to the fire is added.
Listen, considering that regulations are now probably, again, a thing of the past, these are good life lessons for the next 4 years.
These are good life lessons, yes. Yeah. So by the time the firefighters arrive, all the firefighters, by the way, all volunteer. And also I saw a source that said the chief was out of town.
Nice.
So they all had to organize themselves.
This is one of them scheduled fires.
Yeah.
This is one of them unscheduled fires.
Yeah. By the time the firefighters arrived, the smoke was so bad that they were... Okay, this is what the source said. I can't stop giggling at it. The smoke was so bad that they were unable to locate the blaze of the fire.
Oh.
It's just
like you just emerge and it's just a wall of black smoke and the scream of 1 million rats dying. And you're like, listen, I know it sounds awful, but like it also smells like a beautiful bourbon pine wood candle. Like, it makes me in the mood for the holidays again.
Yeah. Someone have cider.
I don't think I should have drank that much wine before we started this whole thing.
It's okay. So from here, the fire then takes down the most expensive building in the city. This wasn't like a neighboring, but this is like the most notable thing. It takes down the most expensive building in the city, the Fry Opera House, within a few hours. In less than a day, the fire has taken down mills, warehouses, piers, and hundreds of other businesses. I don't know how it eventually got put out. I'm assuming it just kind of petered out on its own.
Ran out of buildings it could burn.
Yeah, because it literally destroyed 25 city blocks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Including the entire business district, the oceanfront area, which included 4 wharves, and then railroad terminals. It did something in the realm of $20 million in damages in 1889, which is estimated to be around $700 million in damages today.
Ooh.
It is considered the most destructive fire in Seattle history. Any wood buildings were basically fully destroyed, and any buildings that were made of any other material were either like completely gutted or collapsed. And so there was like really not a whole lot to work with left. But the community comes together really quickly. On June 7th, 600 plus of the city's civic leaders and businessmen gather to discuss rebuilding. Help comes from all over the West, including from other cities in Washington, Tacoma, Olympia, and then from elsewhere, so Portland, San Francisco, Victoria, and more. Seattle passes their first building codes.
Told you.
Yeah, which
It's
required
cooking time with Thomas all over again.
which required buildings within the fire zone to be constructed with stone or brick instead of wood. It also set standards for wall thickness and required division walls between buildings. And I'm not sure what this means, but the sources I read said that you can still see evidence of this specific implementation of this code in one of the like really famous squares that I'll mention again later. I can't remember the name. So there's also a professional fire department that is implemented because previously it was all volunteers.
Right.
Seattle's water supply is also taken over by the city's first publicly owned utility. Previously to this, it was privately owned, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
Because of this privately owned stuff, the like water flow wasn't what it should have been. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, so the city takes over the water flow. They also increase the diameter of water lines, and then they add more fire hydrants throughout the city.
So they're really like, top to bottom, let's not burn everything down again.
Yeah, let's try this and do it better. Immediately after the fire, though, businesses start reopening in makeshift tents, like around where they were.
That plot.
Yeah, you gotta
Absolutely.
keep going. So it's really like impressive how fast the city kind of rebounded. And I think having no fatalities probably helped a bit. That they were like, "Damn, this sucks."
Well, and also so many people are spending so much time in tents at this point that it's like not discouraging.
Yeah,
Nowadays, the only businesses that I patronize that are out of tents are farmers markets and fireworks stands, and I mean, I'm from Nebraska.
If you're from Colorado, he doesn't do that. Okay. So after the fire, the Seattle is rebuilt with 465 new buildings, and the population of the city increases by a little over 30% within a year after the fire. A lot of this is due to the modernization of the city after the fire. This made Seattle the biggest city in Washington and actually made it for a contender for the terminus of the Great Northern Railway.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But Grant, how did they rebuild so fast? Do you know?
Is this like, where did the wood come from, or where did the money come from?
Yeah, where did the money come from? And also, like, logistically, how did they rebuild so fast?
So if I remember what I think I know correctly, they literally just built on top of the sidewalks of the old city. Is that accurate? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I think I knew that was I had taken a Seattle Underground tour before.
There's one of two companies that you took that tour from, and I know I mentioned them at the end.
Okay. So then before we really move on,
go for it.
The other thing is, so I took that Seattle Underground tour with, of course, Lydia one time when they were living up in Seattle. This is why I
was so sure you knew enough, or like a decent amount about this topic.
Well, okay, so it's like we did it and it was fun, but the plan was then like dinner and drinks and then going out afterwards. So like while it was good, it was like just the start of the night, and it was like also like a vacation, and
like
it was
our Prague
winter.
haunted tour.
Oh yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
See, like this is the memories. I have one really clear memory. We're standing in the like hollowed out room of a quote unquote seamstress, which was code for prostitution, brothel, right?
Yep.
And because we're on like the 7 p.m. tour, which is the last family friendly tour, they're not saying brothel out loud. They're saying seamstress or whatever, and they're hinting at it and things like that. And me and Lydia are standing next to each other in like the corner, and this is an echoey room made out of brick and debris.
Oh, and Lydia
leans.
Neither of you actually know how to be that quiet.
Correct.
You're either no sound comes out of your mouth or too much. And Lydia's always like,
always too much.
And you mean a brothel, right?
No, she literally leans into me and she goes, "He means brothel." And I go, "I know, Lydia." And like all 40 people are staring at us. And because of that incident, I remember nothing else about that tour. Good. Brothel owner was one of the wealthiest people in Seattle, certainly the wealthiest woman, one of the wealthiest people, and helped contribute to the reconstruction. And you can still visit part of it today. That's what I remember.
Excellent. I'm so glad that you said that, Grant. Okay.
Even with my degree in history education, I go on these tours and I'm like, and you'll never guess the hilarious friend moment that I had. No idea what happened on the tour.
So they rebuild the city like relatively fast. I mean, it's still a lot of infrastructure and money and everything, but they start from scratch without needing to do too much of the cleanup effort. You see, because the original storefronts will still stand once the rebuilding of the city is complete. So Seattle originally was built at sea level, which led to all kinds of issues in the city when the tide was really high, including like some areas flooding.
Right.
Others that I read, toilets flushing in the opposite direction.
Up, not down.
I know, but no.
Not like in the Australian, it spins the other way.
No, like comes up, out at you instead of down and away.
What's the term that you use? Like these toilets are pulling trig.
This is a family-friendly show, Grant.
Sure, absolutely. For the first time ever. Finally got it on episode 85.
So Seattle makes the decision that now they have this opportunity to essentially start from a blank slate.
Right.
That they're going to solve the problem.
They're going to move to Colorado.
They're going to solve the problem of the city being too low. Monet, stop. Uncle Grant does not want to see you. I'm sorry. So, come on. They regrade the city, and they actually change the elevation in some areas of the city to up to 35 feet. But they keep the original ground level under the new ground level surrounding the retaining walls. Or that are surrounded by retaining walls. So instead of like actually regrading and putting dirt up to where they want the new sidewalk to be, they literally just build like essentially a basement.
Yeah.
Right.
To an entire city.
Yeah. And just put a new floor on top of everything with like supports underneath it.
It is from an economic perspective genius because they're like, what if everyone just had huge basements? Perfect. Let's solve.
Yeah, literally. And so this is called the Seattle Underground, like Grant said. There's an entire underground city underneath Seattle.
If you're walking anywhere near Pike's Market or anywhere where you notice that the hill becomes like especially sloped, looked at the sidewalk. If you are standing on top of, are you about to say it?
No, okay. I didn't actually include this. I just thought it would come up organically.
If you are, you were right. If you look down at the sidewalk and you are standing on what looks like a bunch of like inlaid little glass cubes.
Or like bottle caps or something, yeah.
While that is like, oh, so artsy, I love Seattle. It's also literally skylights to the like underground basement. And they used to be very needed and practical for a long time.
There's lots of photos of them if you want. They're called vault lights for the Seattle Underground. They're actually very pretty, like definitely from below, but kind of from above as well. So the doors to, while they're reconstructing and like while they're regrading everything, they put the doors to the buildings are still on the original ground floor, right? So people are walking around downtown, and if they want to go into a store, they then have to go down either like a steep ladder or a steep set of stairs or a ladder. And although no deaths occurred during the original fire, it's estimated that around 17 men fell to their deaths.
Oh God! While they were doing the reconstruction?
While they were doing this before, while everyone was having to go up and down ladders all the time. Jeez. Which is dark, but also like kind of funny.
Talk about chutes and ladders. More like, oh, shoot, my ladder.
Oh, shoot, my ladder caused a death. So as the sidewalks are completed and everything, store owners start moving their storefront to the new ground level, which then makes the bottom floor, the original ground level, like a basement.
But like a lot of those storefronts still had like the glass and still had like the company's name inscribed on it and stuff,
which are still there in a lot of the areas that you can now tour. But so some businesses maintained operations on both floors, so the basement as well as the first floor. But some of the businesses would end up like loaning out the basement or just selling the basement level to other underground, wink, wink, businesses.
A lot of seamstresses down there.
A lot of seamstresses. Sometimes this was not nefarious because this was a very publicly accessible area, especially during this time. So it wasn't always a bad thing. It's when the area becomes, what is it? What do they call it? When they like set the areas like no, like
start to seal it.
Yeah, they seal it off in, I'm about to say it, so I'm not gonna, they seal it off at some point, and that's when it becomes really like shady. So this is where I talk about the person that I want to make a whole nother story about. But I also like, you can see I had one bullet and then I was like, shit.
It's like a little family tree that it just keeps descending further and further.
So this is an expensive endeavor, and Grant kind of alluded to this. It's difficult to finance, and in no small part because banks are hesitant to give out loans because of the riskiness of the entire endeavor.
Right. And I mean, just because of my own learned history about gay history, like as soon as they seal it, like closeted homosexuals are like, all right, new cruising spot. Here we go.
It's the
heart of the city.
Seattle Underground.
She was making a YMCA gesture. If you were like, is Maia okay?
Yes. No, the answer is no. So one of the facts I don't see linked often enough to this story is the contribution of Madame Lou Graham, which is who you were talking about.
Oh, nice.
Here's a quote from a historical writer. If she hadn't been there and hadn't been as wealthy as she was, I think Seattle would have come to an end at this point. So honestly, I might end up doing a full story on her at some point.
The only fact I remember about her was that well into the 20th, maybe even the 21st century. What was her name? Madame
Lou Graham. That's not her actual name. But.
Lou Graham had made the single largest contribution to Seattle public schools until Bill Gates beat her donation.
Yeah, she did a lot of philanthropy, and that's one of the things that I saw and was like, save it if you do the episode. So there's a lot of really interesting tidbits about her, and I would like to do it as a full episode. I think it's going to take a lot of time because a lot of it isn't really easily available. Like even looking up Lou Graham, it's like links to historical pieces that aren't even available anymore or links to books, you know? It's like there's not a whole lot readily available on her, even in relation to the Seattle fire, when she's like one of the big contributors to
she's why Seattle exists.
Literally. So she owned and operated one of the highest end brothels in the city, as well as several other less scandalous endeavors like real estate and investing.
Great for money laundering, too.
Yes. One of the historians I read is actually kind of annoyed that Lou Graham is known only for her brothel work. Because she does a lot of other really interesting stuff. She's involved in like some of the suffragette movements. Suffragette movements. I said that right? Okay. I didn't know that Seattle allowed women to vote before the original suffrage. That's fascinating.
A lot of Western states did.
Yeah?
Can I actually share that little history for a second?
Do it.
Okay, so in like a masculinized version of history, a lot of times the story gets told that these new states created in the Western United States granted women the right to vote because they thought it would like encourage women to move there.
Right.
Wrong.
No. Yeah.
Because a lot of the actually successful entrepreneurs in these states were women who had immense financial and political power.
Right.
And when these states' constitutions were being written, demanded their suffrage. And so like, I'm not even necessarily talking about like brothels or sex work, although certainly like a lucrative industry out west where it was mainly men who were immigrating for the jobs at the time. But it's like these women ran kitchens, these women ran laundries, these women ran hotels, traditionally feminine industries that none of these single men really had the capacity to do for themselves and built an enormous amount of financial capital that way. And then also meant that they oftentimes had an understanding about what was happening in these circles of power as these men moved through their businesses. And because they were there when these towns were founded, the idea of these women owning businesses was just an assumed thing because it had always been the case. And that is why women out west had suffrage. Not some like scheme by like scheming men to get women to move to Wyoming, but because women had the power to demand it and demand it they did.
What I read about Seattle specifically was that they allowed women the right to vote, and then women started voting against corrupt politicians and stuff, and that like essentially kind of crashed the Seattle economy because so much of it was based on like shady dealings and stuff like that men were like, okay, clearly you can't have this right, give it back.
Right.
You know, and so they actually took away the right to vote for a while until the actual or the big
amendment
one in like New York City or whatever. Tennessee, sure. I know a lot about women's history. I know it happened in the East.
Insane for me, someone who looks like me, to be telling you, someone who looks like you, about this.
I don't know. I can recognize some of the names.
Say one. I won't do that to you.
Molly Brown.
Alice Paul.
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Molly Brown was friends with a bunch of them.
Sure, I'm sure she was.
Anyway, So her brothel served a lot of the high-end clientele, so you can kind of read between the lines there and see what kinds of people she was serving, like high-end politicians, businessmen, stuff like that. And she also took exceptional care of her ladies, ensuring, I saw in some sources that she ensured they received an education, partially because she wanted them to be able to have educated conversations with their clients, but also because I think she genuinely probably cared about the ladies that she was working with. I also saw another source that said she allowed the ladies to charge the men what they saw fit. So like if you're a dick, you pay an asshole tax.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
More of that.
Yes. So it's also thought that there's a quote that I didn't like word for word write down, but this is basically it. The same amount of business of the city's business was conducted in her brothel parlor as was conducted at City Hall, which was a few blocks away.
Nice.
So you see what kind of clientele she's hosting.
Absolutely. Listen, if you're learning about it at the meeting, then you missed the meeting before the meeting, and you're out of the loop.
Yes, and you need to be at the meeting before the meeting.
Right, that's actually when it's getting decided.
Yes, yeah, you don't have a say after that.
That's a little career advice from Grant and Maya. Two very different working professionals.
Yes,
but that's it right
but it's
there.
true.
100%.
It's true in all environments.
And if you're like, I'm not sure if there's a meeting before the meeting, babes,
you were
there
not
is.
Invited.
It's a group chat that you're not a part of, but you can launch your own meeting before the meeting. And then either you become the center of focus or you get invited to the meeting before the meeting. Either way, don't accept your position. I'm full of career advice. You signed an NDA.
Okay, it doesn't work for my with my industry that way, but maybe suggest to your boss like, hey, we should have an internal meeting to totally like get everybody on the same page before we go into the meeting with the client. That's the meeting before the meeting, and that's where you all gossip a little bit.
Really fascinating, because I, of course, was talking about like an evil, malicious coup.
I know. Yeah. No, mine was there is actually a meeting before the meeting. And sometimes there's a meeting of the bosses before the internal meeting. So it's like an internal meeting.
A child had to say the word maniacal today in class to hear it aloud, and instead said mechanical.
Nice.
And then I, in the softest way possible, was like, maniacal. And they like basically were like, no one look at me. I am shamed. Like, there's no way it could have been
I've
more...
dishonored my family.
Yes, there's like no way it could have been more gentle than just like I not saying anything at all. And I was like, oh, I get this kid. You have a story about brothels.
So, Madame Lou Graham, I did not write her actual legal name. She is an immigrant from Germany, from what I understand. And I just told myself a lot of the details that I'm not writing down. I was like, save it for the story. I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna. I want to get to it, but just know that this isn't her actual name. This is a name she adopted. She is so integral to the city's political landscape that at one point she's arrested by an officer who doesn't recognize her, and she gets let go because they realize who she is. And then, like daisy chain of events, the mayor is forced to resign. For letting something like this happen.
What is this, modern day New York City?
Brothel owner arrested is a direct correlation to mayor resigns, which I find hilarious.
And yes, for those of you wondering, I am talking about Mayor Eric Adams' indictment and like, look how corrupt the NYCPD is.
Unless it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Right, of course, obviously.
Yes,
Andy Samberg can do no wrong and is the only good wife guy out there.
Yeah. Fair. So she is one of the big contributors to the city. Like Grant mentioned, she is one of the big financial reasons the city is able to afford to reconstruct after the Great Seattle Fire, as it's termed. When she passes, she actually had an estate so large that it made the news, not because the estate itself was so large, but because it was the biggest inheritance tax that had been paid to the state.
Oh.
Like ever.
Like it's a huge windfall for Washington State.
Yes. The state treasury has to collect $3,800 from the inheritance. And that's in 1904. So that is $135,000 today, which is insane. Her total estate was valued at just over $100,000, which would be just over $3.5 million today. Here is a quote from the news article that talked about this. The payment is also remarkable on account of the itemized list of property that is among the documents filed in the state treasurer's office. This list shows over $19,000 worth of jewelry, again in 1904.
Wow.
Consisting mostly of diamonds, one piece, a necklace, being valued at $4,000. Judging by other items such as started stated pieces of furniture, the valuations on the entire property were placed extremely low. So I think a lot of the state kind of decreased the value of some of her belongings.
Because of the work and the way she made the money, or just
potentially.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe she was a woman, maybe because she didn't. Yeah. Anyway, also historians are pretty sure she was gay.
Oh. So this episode was going to be about her. Is that it? Okay.
I was so close, Grant. But so this is a photo of her and some of her ladies.
She never had a husband or a son or anything?
It seems like there's a lot of writing about a partner that she lived with, but she was never married. Sure. I also think she employed
cousin Agnes, absolutely.
Some trans women, which was like in the 1800s, super scandalous. I think she's the one on the far left in this photo, but this is some of her ladies, and this is.
They are serving. I
know,
this photo.
And below is what that building looks like today.
Also, Maia hasn't mentioned this, but there is just a whole naked female statue.
Yes.
And then both of the pictures on either side of her are naked women's backs.
Yeah.
And then there's like so many cigar boxes on the piano. It's crazy.
I love her decor.
And the ceiling definitely has smoke damage. She's just smoking and staring at boobs.
Yeah.
Loving it though.
Right? It's such a badass photo.
They all have so much hair. And I feel like this absolutely is her.
Yeah, I think so, right? I saw pictures of her, and I'm pretty sure
it's cozy. Like the chairs actually look comfortable to sit in.
Mm-hmm.
God, they were doing it right back then. What do we think this pillow is doing right here?
Someone didn't want it for lumbar support.
I
put
guess.
It back there. Or maybe they were laying and put their head back there. Okay.
Fascinating stuff.
And then this is the photo of what it looks like now.
Okay, that's her home.
Yeah. Yep. However, it now houses. It now houses the Union Gospel Mission.
What?
Yeah, so that's that.
What does that even mean, the Union Gospel Mission?
I wasn't about to start looking into it. I didn't want to make myself mad like that.
Mm.
I did find out, though, that while she was operating her brothel, she was catty corner to the big Catholic church.
Oh, nice.
In the area, which I thought was hilarious.
I mean, doesn't make any sense for those two businesses to be too far away from each other.
I mean, fair.
And all I was saying is that if you're going to commit a sin, you might as well be close enough to get it absolved. Obviously, that's what I was saying. So it's gay.
Of course. So it's gay. So in 1907, back to the story of Seattle and the fire and everything like that, Lou Graham aside, despite how much I love her. In 1907, the city officially condemns the Seattle Underground in an attempt to control the spread of the bubonic plague.
Oh, in what year?
1907.
Oh, that's too late, historically, to be worried about the bubonic plague.
I think actually because of the lack of rats, because of the fire, they never really had to be worried about it. I did see one source that
it's like 50th generation rats finally spreading it.
They specifically did this because in 2 years they were hosting part of the World Fair in 1909. So they really didn't want to risk any of that. So in 1909 they were one of the stops of the World Fair. It was part of the Alaska Yukon Pacific Exposition. This is not the World Fair that we get the Space Needle from.
Okay.
There is some buildings on one of the
60s.
One of the college campuses, I believe, came from this World Fair. I'm not sure if it's still standing or not. At this point, the underground is mainly used for storage from the above buildings, but also as illegal housing for some of the unhoused. It also houses gambling halls, speakeasies, and opium dens.
So it's like a pretty cool place.
Which continue operating like well into the 50s, and some sources even said the 60s.
Well, those are not the businesses you close down right before you host the World Fair.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
Yeah. What you want all these dignitaries to come? Where are they going to go?
The ocean's nice, but once you've seen the ocean, you've seen the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. In the 1960s, there is a man named Bill Spiedel, who is a historian and a columnist for the Seattle Times. He realizes that there's a potential benefit to preserving the subterranean ruins. In 1965, he starts a company called Bill Spiedel's Underground Tour. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. So it's called the Underground Tour. It tours a portion of the underground that had been restored and preserved to like its original state. So everything should look the way that it looked in the early 1900s, late 1800s. This company still exists, and for $22 for an adult and $10 per kid age 7 to 12, you can take a 75-minute tour that starts from Doc Maynard's public house. In 2013, a new tour company called Beneath the Streets opened in a separate section of the underground that they had restored, and it's still operational today. You can take a 60-minute tour for $26 per adult, $16 per kids age 7 to 12. And they also offer specialized tour like the Red District Tour, which is after hours, 18 years old and plus, and it focuses more on the illegal activities which happen in the underground. And they also host a queer history tour, which focuses on the roots.
Didn't even remember that, and I was like, "There's so much gay stuff happening down there."
Which focuses on the roots of the LGBTQ plus, a lot in Pioneer Square. That's the name of the square I was trying to remember earlier, which is where the fire started, essentially. So
it was Bill Beatles. I wanted to look it up on my phone real quick.
Beatles?
Yeah, Bill Beatles Underground Tour is the one I've been on.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
Like the new one, that was not the one that I went on.
Bill Speedles?
What was his name?
Speedle.
Sure. Am I saying Bill Beadle?
Yes.
That's what I thought you said.
No.
Bill Speedle? Much better name.
Speidel. Yeah. So, do you need to take a break or anything? This is the time to take a break. And with that, not all underground systems are as fun and friendly now. So let's talk about
I know. I was on the New York subway this fall. Kidding. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, well.
I mean, it's like, oh, I'm cold. Wait, it's suddenly so hot and it smells like the worst garbage I've ever smelled. I've taken 4 steps.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's city living, baby.
I just love, there's a scene in The Office where Michael's in New York and he goes down the subway and he's like, you got to travel like the people in New York or something. And he goes down the stairs ahead of the documentary crew and he just turns around and he's like, that's a man peeing.
So, yes.
Yes. I was like
Second,
that. Yeah.
If your buried below story is about to be hell, hilarious. I forgot what the third one was going to be.
Excellent. Let me pour myself another glass of wine.
What's your Chardonnay tonight?
This is actually my mom's favorite Chardonnay, and I have developed a taste for it. This is where I get my taste for New Zealand Sauv Blanc. It's this Oyster Bay
nice
one. It's like $12 a bottle. It's my favorite Sauv Blanc to date. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, I do. Do you want a sip of Miomi?
No. With like so much love. I can't.
I don't know how you drink so much white wine. I love red wine.
Red wine just gives me a headache if it's the wrong kind.
It's nice. It's crisp.
Right? It's nice.
This is a Sauv.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
New Zealand Sauv. Got notes of apple, I think. I don't know.
Found out one of my friends is like just in like a wine club. They're like,
oh, that's
we
fun.
Found a winery that we love and we just get bottles from them.
We should take a sommelier, like a fake, not like a real sommelier class, but like a wine tasting course.
I have read so many books this last summer about sommeliers. Yes.
Because I feel like there's a chance either we end up like, what's that movie, Wine Country or something with Amy Poehler? Yeah,
yes, correct.
Or we get really into wine.
Nice. I'm already really into wine, so it sounds like I'm about to become Amy Poehler.
Okay, cool.
Brene Brown guest stars in that movie. I don't know if you know that or not.
I did not.
Yeah, it's like basically the only movie she's ever guest starred in. They're like getting dinner and they're having wine, and as they're getting wine drunk, they realize like in the corner it's Brene Brown, like with like 5 friends.
Oh my god, I never knew who that was.
And now you know who it is, and it's I know. Wow. I know. My dream really is to interview her. Just like
awesome.
Sit down and talk to her. And I think I'm increasingly building confidence to eventually get shot down.
We can try. Let's do the ads first, because get those numbers up.
Let's get those numbers up.
And then that way we can be like, look at all the people. Money. Yes, exactly.
I mean, it was enough to get Springfield Underground to respond.
Apparently.
That's my win for the week.
No,
if we're doing rose and thorns,
that's,
that's my rose.
I don't know what mine is, but we'll talk about it.
I can tell you what my thorn is.
What is it?
An American cheese chicken salad sandwich eaten with like 2-day-old chai that I had in the fridge. Oh, I was like, I don't want to just drink this. It's gross. So I threw in a little bit of Kahlua, just like a splash for the coffee flavor. Down that, 20 minutes later, on the road.
Do you know what my thorn is? At least from today. I was going to meal prep last night. I decided not to because I actually had bought this ramen that I was really excited to try. I went to Whole Foods to pick up some like Asian sauces, essentially there's like 5 different kinds of soy sauce, which I'm learning more as I like get more into like Japanese cooking.
Okay.
And then I just have to go buy all of them,
right, of
because
you
can't really like make them easily.
I can't wait to go to Japan with you.
It's gonna be really fun. I'm very excited. Sammy's there right now on her honeymoon, and she sends me like little daily updates. It's actually really sweet, and I'm like, I want that sushi. It looks so
the
good.
Patreon content we're gonna create when we go to Japan.
Oh, it'll be good.
Mind blowing.
So I was at Whole Foods and I found this ramen that I have seen ads for on Instagram, but I've never bought. It's like protein ramen essentially, and so I was excited to try it. It's made
Coloradans will force protein into anything.
Well, it's like made by an Asian like founder, I think, of the company, and so I was excited to at least try it. I've been like playing around with the idea of trying it before, but never actually. I would have ordered it online, and so I never did. I brought it today. Horrible. It's not like the noodles are okay. It's the smell. I got the pork tonkatsu, which is like usually one of my go-to ramens. It was so bad, guys. Like, I don't know if I tried the wrong one or what, but it was like, I was like, I can't, I literally, it was one of the things where the smell was like so bad, and I don't have a good sense of smell. It was like the cheeses where I like literally couldn't eat it.
Yeah. Colorado is great. You should absolutely move here. If any one of your friends was like, do you want this? It has extra protein powder in it. No. The answer is always no.
Grant is traumatized from Tyler. I'm not usually that bad.
Listen, during the summer when Tyler was just a little transient, just in general, he kept a thing of like power protein oats.
His protein choices, I have
insane.
never liked it. He's like, I got this protein cookie for you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm like, great.
Sure, my mouth is dry and chalky, but also I have protein in me.
Yeah, there are better options.
They have been on the hook for a more darker and mysterious underground for like 5 minutes. We're having a good time.
Let's get
We're
into
having a good time
okay.
here.
So I have a feeling you're going to recognize the story. So I'm trying to like make it as unrecognizable as possible until you suddenly like
connect all the dots.
Bing! Yeah.
I know it's not Abraham Lincoln because we've
Yes.
done it too recently.
Yes.
So I'll just listen.
Okay.
But if it's Titanic, I'm losing my mind.
Buried below what? The ocean?
Yes.
Okay.
Like actively, yes.
No, I got the answer as I said the sentence. So if you wouldn't mind actually just leaving me alone.
Buried below what? The waves?
I'm uncomfortable. So 2019.
Oh, okay.
A team of British surveyors, explorers, and cavers who are led by a man named Rue Walters. This team is called Compendium. It's actually a company, and Rue Walters is the CEO, but it is like a specific team that goes out and does what I'm about to talk about. They agree to take on their most challenging project to date. They are headed to northern Thailand, specifically a city called Mae Sai in the Chiang Rai province. And I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing any of this wrong. I'm going off of what I think it should be pronounced like, and I'm probably incorrect. This team is contacted by a company called Mallinson Sadler Production to do the scan for an upcoming episode that their production company is going to be airing. So they're paying this Compendium company to go survey this cave so that they can then present it on an episode that they're going to be airing.
In Thailand?
Yeah, in Thailand.
Okay.
The brief that the production company gives to Compendium is that they want a 3D survey of 6 kilometers of a stretch of one of the most popular caves in the area using light detection and ranging, aka LiDAR. LiDAR, for those of you who don't know, uses laser pulses to measure the distance between like the measuring device and like the nearest wall. And then it also will help create 3D renderings. It's really easy, like instead of, I don't know how to explain this the best way. It's a quicker way for you to like draw what's around because it's like, well, this laser bounced back at 10 feet. This laser bounced back at 3 feet. This laser bounced back at 10 feet. So then you're able to like kind of deduce that there's a like a crevice or whatever in there. Right. So then they're going to take all these LiDAR scans and photos, and they're going to create a CGI model of the cave, and that's what's going to be presented on this episode. Previous to this, the only model / map of the cave that the Compendium team had to work with was a hand-drawn survey map.
Oh.
I don't know how detailed it was. It seems like it was relatively detailed. Like,
shocking that you could hand detail a cave route.
Yeah. Yes. But this hand-drawn survey indicates there's many points in the cave which would be muddy, and or incredibly narrow and difficult to traverse.
Just don't go down it. It's actually so easy not to go down that.
just don't do it.
Like for me, like in my mind, it's like totally normal, the most normal thing in the world to be swimming underground, but it's in a huge cavern. That doesn't bother me at all.
Oh, see, that's where I don't mind the cave.
No.
I hate the water in the
cave.
No.
For me, I'm like, it's water. It's like fine. It's not going to like fall in on me. I have the ability to move around. I'm Ariel, for gosh sake. But like, hey.
I can do a backflip.
And maybe it's because I've always been a pretty big person, but like a small confined space where you cannot turn around.
That's fair.
Why? You don't need to be down there. Like, leave it to whoever lives there. You don't need to be there.
You don't need to do that. So the Compendium team takes the brief that they're given from the production company. I assume they're like bidding maybe against other scanning companies, but they give them a price, and then they're like, we think it'll take us about 3 weeks in Thailand to just do the scans, and that's not including like the making it into a CGI model and stuff. So soon enough, though, I think their bid got accepted. They go down to Thailand to start work on the job. They decide they would begin scanning from the farthest point in the cave and then work their way back towards the entrance. Since they're going to be there for 3 weeks.
Are they the first people to get to the back of this cave?
No.
Okay.
No. So they're given a point, like, we want the cave scanned up to this point. And so basically day 1, they go all the way back there, scan. And then day 2, they have to walk less. And so that's their kind of idea, is that like they're going to get super tired. So why not make it easier as the days goes on to keep doing the scanning? So once they're at the farthest end of the cave that they're meant to explore and survey, they discover an anomaly. There's a part of the cave that doesn't look naturally formed. It's almost exactly 2.5 feet wide and 9 feet long.
That'll do it. You go ahead. You have fun down there. I'm getting out, never getting back, flying back to England.
So literally do not touch the screen at all. But so this is the CGI model that they create. And you can see right here, that's the 2x5, 2.5 by 9. And then this is a close-up of that.
I don't even know like how they're walking / crawling to get to this space.
Yeah.
And what do you mean they're discovering it for the first time? Like, I don't
know if it's like people have known about it, but this is the first time it's ever been like really mapped.
From this second photo, the side photo, it's so clearly like dug, right? Like there's a like a lack of direction when like Mother Nature starts to create something.
Yes.
Things just kind of turn and
you can
twist.
even see in like the other parts of the cave, it's just like very natural, but
naturally
this is
unpredictable. And this looks like a thumb.
Yes, exactly. So in this area of the cave.
Is this a popular cave? Like, what's this cave like? Okay.
Yes. The team finds stone tools that it looks like they were used to dig out this area, and also some like scratchings on the wall. And they realize very quickly that this part of the cave is not naturally formed, because it wasn't. It was not naturally formed. This is the first time that this particular cave has been mapped in such detail, everything down to the texture of the rocks. So in the end, this weird anomaly part aside, the model took 8.7 billion data points, 7,000 photographs before it was even made into a CGI model. The model was used in a TV show episode as promised, along with interviews with the team inside the cave. The cave's name is Tham Luang. Do you recognize that? Okay. And the production company that hired them, Mallinson Sadler Production Company, owns a particular show called Drain the Oceans that is broadcast on National Geographic.
Drain the Oceans? As in like buried below the ocean's waves?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like some evil scientist plan.
No. The episode is called The Thai Cave Rescue.
I mean, I know about the soccer kids.
Dear listener, today we're going to be talking about the 2018 Tham Luang rescue of the youth soccer team that got trapped down there.
what does this man-made cave extension have to do with anything?
We'll talk about it.
I feel like I knew everything there was to know about that.
Oh, I guarantee you didn't, because some of it was not released very publicly to the news.
I remember is that when they came out and they were like, what are you going to do now that you're rescued? One of the kids was like, I want my mom's fried rice. And I was like, that's really sweet. And I bet that's amazing fried rice.
Yeah. There's a couple instances where we'll talk about there. They were like, I just want a good meal. And they were like, great. Anyway, we have this liquid nutrition for you.
I'm so excited.
Okay.
I am excited. We're back, but I'm excited.
So before we get really into the woods, I know I had heard about this story as it was happening because it kind of captured news everywhere, all around the world. I didn't know all of the details, but in case you don't remember everything, I just want you to know you can root for everyone in this story.
Nice.
No one's a bad guy. There is only one fatality, but it is not one of the kids. It is like kind of ancillary to the actual rescue mission itself. Like, it's still very important. Obviously, it's still tragic.
I love our tagline, you can root for everybody in this. I love that.
It works. That's all you.
I think it's because like I had to do an episode immediately following like a kidnapping episode.
Yeah, you were like, you can root for these people.
Literally, I am not introducing you to a villain right now.
That's if you hear me not say you can root for everyone, don't
hold
root
your
for
breath.
anyone.
Hold your breath, because I'm over here like that's an excellent point that the Unabomber's making.
Maybe it's time for political violence. Okay, so after the QAnon episode, I decided I needed to do something a little maybe lighthearted.
Girl, if there's shrimp fried rice back there, you're telling me a shrimp fried this rice?
No, tofu did.
You telling me this heat come from space?
What?
A space heater.
I'm over it.
It works with everything.
This story is meant to give you a little bit of faith in humanity, especially after the QAnon episode.
Okay.
So here it is. The story starts with a birthday. It is Saturday, June 23rd,
Get it, Greta
2018.
Gerwig. Sorry, I'm a little wine drunk. I'm swearing on the main episode right now. I need to put this on my close friends and stuff. Go ahead.
I love watching or listening to episodes back because you can tell whoever was editing it wasn't paying attention really that much if you get a curse word past the bleep. Because usually I tell Casey like bleep any curse words Grant says, and I try to too. If it's me, I just kind of let it go. But you could tell if we let one slip by you, we were on our phones. We were playing solitaire or something.
I love you guys. Remember the very first episode we did? I don't know why I feel so nostalgic right now, but we filmed one episode and you had to cut like 30% of it because it was like identifying details, family information.
Because that was when I would send you the episode before I posted it. Like, you need to listen to this afternoon and tell me what I need to cut.
Exactly.
We've gotten a lot better about that, thankfully.
Second nature now.
Yeah.
As one of my friends said, actually, we are getting dangerously close to NPR quality. I know.
Oh my God.
Which I thought was just them being nice. And then I listened to our current introduction episode and I was like, they're right. They're right.
We have good microphones. My favorite thing now
Shout
is
out, Aaron.
listening to or seeing podcast reels on my Instagram and seeing what mics they use, because this is industry standard right now, but the base of it is different if they have the slightly cheaper version. And so I'm like, you don't even have the good ones.
I love how catty we are.
I am a bitch at heart.
Born haters. And if you would like to support us, join our Patreon.
We'll hate with you.
We promise the money goes to good work, and you're going to like the way you laugh. We guarantee it.
Shut up. That's the ad.
That's the new tag. Absolutely.
You're going to like the way you laugh.
I guarantee it.
Okay. Back to Thailand in 2018, June of 2018. June 23rd, specifically. There's a youth soccer team called Mupa, which means wild boars. Or wild boar. They're gathering, or the plan is to gather after practice to celebrate the birthday of their oldest member, whose name is Pirpat Sompiangai. Sompiangai. Anyway, their nickname is Knight. All of these kids have nicknames, so I'm probably going to refer more so to their nicknames than their actual names, but I will at least mention their full names. His nickname is Knight, and he's turning 17. Knight's family is waiting for him and the team at home. I'm not sure if maybe the whole team was coming or if he was just expected home. Anyway, they're expecting him to come home to celebrate the birthday. They have several carefully wrapped gifts and a bright yellow SpongeBob themed cake. Okay.
That's cute.
This is the note that okay, not really SpongeBob themed, just SpongeBob. This is the cake.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of piping.
It's just like a yellow round cake with SpongeBob's face taking up the entire cake.
My mom used to take one of her casserole pans and then make like a sheet cake in it. And then not even take it out of the pan necessarily, just frost the top of it brown with a little bit of green and then wash off some of our Hot Wheels and put them on it. And it would be, it was actually so cute. Yeah.
My mom refused to get me cakes that had toys on it. So
see, my mom also refused to get me cakes
so
that had
she
toys
just
on
put
it.
your own toys
Correct.
on
Not
it.
because she didn't like the concept, but because we had cakes with toys at home.
Yeah. You have toys at home. We'll make the cake and put the toy on. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure there were a couple of like Hy-Vee store-bought cakes, you know, or whatever, but I remember a lot in a casserole dish.
I also just really liked ice cream cakes after a certain age, and so you can't really put toys on there as easily. They melt.
Probably the first time my family bumped up a small degree in socioeconomic class was when we could start to afford Cold Stone ice cream cakes.
Yeah. I remember that day. When my mom was like, let's go to Cold Stone and pick out your cake. I was like,
yeah.
What?
When you go from Betty Crocker to Dairy Queen to Cold Stone.
Oh, I don't actually know if I've ever made it to Cold Stone. I think it was just Dairy Queen, but that might have just been me. I didn't like I mainly like
the
soft serve ice
it.
cream.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry.
It's this man's.
For our listeners, they're like, what is going on today?
We don't know.
We've been too productive. This is our playtime.
We've been too productive in our day jobs.
We're going to be really fun at trivia tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're still going, right?
Yes, I have told, or Maddie might come.
Yes.
And my hairstylist might actually come.
Yay, Jess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You did it right this time.
Good. I'm mainly going for nachos and a soft pretzel.
Jess, if you're listening, he just calls you Eden. It wasn't like he says anything offensive. He only knows you by the name Eden.
That's how she finds out. Talk about this boy's birthday. SpongeBob-themed birthday.
His parents are prepared at home waiting for the team to arrive, or maybe just Knight to arrive back home. But before Knight is going to come back home, him and the team are going to explore a cave nearby with an assistant coach. His name is Ake. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's A-K-E. It's a nickname. They're going to visit one of their favorite haunts, the Tham Luang cave. The group often goes into this relatively innocuous cave, sometimes as far as 8 kilometers in, which is about 5 miles, for their initiation rite, where new team members would write their names on a wall in the cave. And so I'm not sure if there was like a new member or whatever, if they were just going because it was Knight's birthday, but this is like a place that they go to regularly and explore regularly. So they all ride their bikes from practice to the mouth of the cave, where they then store their bikes and bags. They only take, I think, a couple flashlights, maybe a couple spare batteries, and I think like a rope with them. And they're only planning to be in the cave for about an hour.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the cave itself. It's a popular destination for day trippers and adventurous children. It's located in the Doi Nang Non mountain range, which separates Thailand from
Myanmar?
Myanmar. Jesus. I like read it. I read it and it sounds different in my head than it does in my mouth. And then I say it and I'm like, that can't be right. Myanmar. Okay. Tham Luang is the 4th biggest cave system in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
The cave is...
So it's very popular.
Yes. The cave is located a little over 6 miles, aka 10 kilometers, below the surface of the mountain. The mountains it's under look like a reclining woman. I saw the picture and I couldn't personally see it, but I also know, like, there's a mountain in Estes Park that is meant to look like a laying down man, and I can kind of see it, but it, you know, it's like people saw it at some point and maybe it's eroded a little bit more now. Anyway, at some point it looked like a reclining woman. Maybe it still does if you have the right eye. So the cave's full name is Tham Luang Kun Nam Nong Non, which translates to the great cave and water source of the Sleeping Lady Mountain.
Okay.
Yes.
Really descriptive.
I think there's like a couple shorter translations before you get to Tham Luang. It's like Tham Luang, and then this one that I just said, and then like 2 others that are like slightly shorter that have the same message.
Not to be a complete and total nerd for a second, but that is one of my favorite things about language. Like the way it can, that like, sure, we can get words and phrases to translate, but the length of the word doesn't always translate, right? So for us, that sounds like a total mouthful, but for them, it could be a very short.
Like in Japanese, we have the word I referring to ourself, right? In Japanese, it's watashi, which is like objectively 3 syllables longer, 2 syllables longer.
And then my favorite of this is always the German word, Schadenfreude, which is joy at others' misery.
That would be your favorite word.
I'm a middle child.
And a teacher.
Yeah, I mean, life lessons come hard and fast sometimes. Don't know what to say.
Womp womp. Okay.
Oh my God. Patreon episode, because I can't keep interrupting.
Okay. No, you're good. Inside of this cave, there is something that is termed the Samyek Junction. So the cave goes on for a while, and then it hits this kind of like bigger cavernous area that they call the Samyek Junction. And what they found out through at least the LiDAR scan of the cave, I'm not sure if this was well known before this, there is another series of caves that lets out into the Samyek Junction called the Monks series. I'm not sure if this is like a traversable thing or what.
So this junction is like you can stay in the original cave or you can get access to all these other caves?
Theoretically, yeah. I'm not sure if it's like something you can easily access, but there is enough of an entrance that it's notable.
It's very much the hot springs in Idaho Springs. Do I have the...
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you're fine.
So there's these hot springs in Idaho Springs, literally called like the Idaho Hot Springs.
Yeah.
It might have an official like business name. Everyone in Denver just calls it the Idaho Hot Springs. Yeah. And there's like the main pool, and then below the main pool there are these caves that divert into a men's cave and a women's cave.
Nice.
And there are 2 rules. You can't be completely naked.
Completely?
Yeah. Like you need to have underwear on or something. I think they use the word undergarments, at least during the holidays.
Okay, Mormons,
it's like you have to have undergarments on and you cannot talk. And I went into the men's cave, everyone completely naked and completely silent. And so I'm like, okay. And it's a kind of an intense heat. Like you almost have to like focus. It's nice. It's really nice. Completely freaked out my brother and sister-in-law. When they went, there was like, Grant, that was the grossest thing we've ever experienced. And I was like, where's your sense of adventure? Exactly.
I love you. I love you, Taylor.
I was like, some of my frontline memories would absolutely freak you out if that was too much. So I make my way all the way to the back. And it's like Lydia and Sophie and their friend Ashley and stuff like that. Yeah. And I'm in the back of the cave, the men's cave, and I can hear bouncing through the small caverns that connects the women talking actively, not a break in the conversation.
So there's one cave that disregards the
correct, because they all had garments on.
Yeah, and then women are like, no, we'll keep that on, but God damn it if we're gonna not talk.
Men are fighting their inner demons while they're just fully exposed, which again, I'm feeling complicated about. Yeah. But
women are like, I'll be damned.
Right, exactly. I'm like learning. I mean, obviously I've been part of the girl chat before, but I'm like, what's this version of the story like? Let's find out. And then we all emerge, towel off, and go get iced coffees. Like, this is the future liberals want. And that's why you should move to Colorado.
Yes.
The dream of the liberals is alive in Denver from Portlandia.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because you were telling me about a cave with children in it.
Yeah. Samyek Junction. We're talking about the anatomics of the cave. Is she still down there? Yeah, she is. Okay. She's cuddling. So Samyek Junction, it is the Tham Luang cave meets the Monk series. Samyek notably becomes the meeting point of 2 underground rivers during the wet season. That's of note.
Oh.
Before we can, so.
I did not know that. Mm-hmm. It becomes the meeting of 2 underground rivers during the rainy season.
Yes.
Okay.
So before the team goes into the tunnels, there is no bad weather. And they are easily able to get to and then through Samyek Junction.
Easily able to.
Easily. Okay. Yeah, there's like literally nothing normal.
Dry.
Yeah, like other than the cave obstructing them, which is normal. Right. After the boys and their coach are in the Tham Luang tunnels, the weather, though, changes really fast.
Sure.
an inch of rain falls in 1 hour.
Oof. Okay.
Yes. The mountains in this area, the like dirt composition, the stones and whatever, it essentially acts as a sponge. And so monsoon season typically begins in like early to middle July. Locals would say like July 10th is usually like the date that like that's where that cave is usually inaccessible. In the monsoon season, this cave goes from being innocuous to very dangerous very quickly. Monsoon season has begun early this year. Even so, the cave should only usually safely be accessed between November and April because the cave can flood up to 16 feet, aka 5 meters, during the season. And the water that flows in is muddy, leading to very, very low visibility if you're underwater. So water is filling through the entrance of the Tham Luang and meeting with the water coming in through the Monk series at Samyak Junction.
Can I ask, how aware is this team to like what's going on?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Honestly.
So it's not like they're in and then they're like suddenly seeing water pour in and then it's like, oh my God.
Once the water's in, that's it. Like they see the water and there's no point in turning back.
But is it like a rushing sound or does like, do you know, does it like kind of come up like groundwater does?
I think
like and fills from the bottom?
Probably comes up more like that,
Okay.
but it's not, I'm going to use some engineering terms. It's not as much of a laminar flow as in it's like silent.
Sorry, go ahead and walk me slower through that.
If you turn on a sink really low and you notice the water comes out and you like, it almost looks like the water's not even flowing. It looks almost solid. That's laminar flow. That just means there's less interaction between the molecules in that flow. And turbulent flow is if you turn it on really high and you start seeing like the bubbles and everything. That's turbulent flow. So laminar flow in this scenario would kind of mean that the water's rising relatively silently.
Okay.
But turbulent flow would be almost more like what you see in a river.
Right.
With like all the ripples and everything. I think it's somewhere in between that.
Your guess is that it's more silent, it's more insidious, it's more like kind of quietly closing off.
I think they're probably seeing it, but I think they know that by the time they see it when they're past Samyak Junction, that there's no way that they're getting out.
And so here's the thing. I know you promised that there are things that I didn't know about this.
Yes.
But this is the first one because it was like, I obviously saw it on the news,
yes.
right? And I was like, okay, that's kind of one of my worst nightmares out there. I have no interest in learning more about that. I will watch the news to see if they make it out alive or not, and I will investigate nothing else.
Here's where I've learned that caves are not actually what really freak me out. It's like the idea of water where things live inside that freaks me out.
What?
Like this idea, it's like rain flow. Like I know there's no fish or like creepy things that can bite me or sting me in there.
It's an aquatic environment.
Yes, it's the aquatic environment that freaks me out. It's not the water.
Total inverse for me.
Yeah.
I'm like realizing in this moment.
I was realizing while I was researching, I was like, oh, this isn't bothering me nearly as much as Devil's Hole bothered me.
Or even The Shaft.
Yeah,
in
The
Australia.
Shaft also bothered me. Yeah.
I like did too, and I was like, I don't think I can do more underground aquifers. But because when I was watching the news, part of me was like, well, how did they manage to get there if they're now stuck? And I had, I guess, assumed like a partial tunnel collapse or something.
No, it's just water from the rainy season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to talk about like, do they play around with the idea of trying to pump the water out?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Basically anything that you could probably think of, they did try.
Okay.
But we'll get there. So like I said, the cave should only be safely accessed between November and April usually. But again, these are locals. They think that they understand the monsoon season isn't coming, but unfortunately the monsoon season comes early.
Right.
The cave floods up to 16 feet during the season, and the water that flows in has very low visibility, making it incredibly hard to traverse. Water is filling through the entrance of the Tham Luang, and it's meeting with the water coming through the Monk series at the Samyak Junction, like I mentioned. The narrowest part of Samyak is completely filled to the roof in under an hour.
Oh, wow.
So the rain's like the team
seals it within an hour.
Yeah, the team gets through Samyak and the water starts flowing so much that it's like you have to swim through it. There's no other option. Okay. And I don't know what that looks like for them, what they're seeing or anything, or how quickly it's filling, but
there was this one moment. like a year and a half ago that I was hiking a slot canyon out in Utah. And it was a little gray above me. But I could see up ahead, like 5, 6, 7, 8 miles off in the distance, that it was grayer and looked like it might be raining. And slot canyons are formed from the flow of water. And part of me is like, okay, what do I do? Because of course there's no phone service to check weather reports. And it's like,
it's also different, like, understanding mountains too, like especially being in Colorado, you do not go above tree line after a certain time, like just because the weather changes so quickly, but that's also because you can see it coming, I
allotted myself what felt like a safe amount of time. I was like 20 minutes, I'm gonna do 20 more minutes in, and I know that water can come fast, but it's like I'll go in, I'll see what I want to see, get a couple of cute Instagram photos,
turn around,
and like get out, right? I don't think it'll ultimately rain, but I mean that's just the thing
it's
too.
It's still terrifying.
There's no guarantee. There's no. Like even if I was a meteorologist, right? Like things can change in an instant, and you're in a very vulnerable situation.
Nature changes fast,
right? And that vulnerability, that volatility, is what made that beautiful place. And it was like I gotta like recognize that,
respect it,
100%. And it's like I'd rather be paranoid than stuck. Yes.
Yes.
Heard.
So this team thinks that they're going to be good. Unfortunately, they get through Sam Yek, and here is a quote from the assistant coach, Ake. He's about 25 at this point, in case you're wondering. He says, quote, "When we went in and got stuck in the cave, at that moment, we saw water. It's full of water. I then volunteered to dive to find out if I could go through or not. If I could go through, then everybody is saved. So we used the rope and we brought it with us. Or we used the rope that we brought with us." I think he like tied it around his waist or something and then gave it to the kids. He, however, is unable to get through it. And so the boys pull their coach back, and now officially the group is like
trapped.
Shit, we're in here. I want to point out that a lot of the quotes I'm going to read from people, there is a couple that are quotes that are actually made in English. Everything else is translated from, I think, Thai. There are a few other languages, but so in case there's any like grammatical or like things that don't totally make sense, it's because it's translated. So the group is now trapped, and they recognize that they can't go back the way that they came, so they have to go further into the caves to escape the water. Okay. So back to the fact that it's Knight's birthday.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure if it's his actual birthday or the day that
or
they were celebrating.
It,
right. But the team doesn't show up at Knight's house later that night. And so the family begins to worry. And the parents know that they're going to Tham Luang Cave. And so they head straight there where they knew that the boys had gone. And they confirmed that the boys had been there because they found all the bikes and bags that were outside of the caves, outside of the mouth of the cave. And so immediately they raised the alarm that night.
Right.
So let's talk about the team for a quick second. I'm sorry for the pronunciation that's about to happen, but I wasn't going to go through this episode without saying all of their names. So we have Chanin Vibulrungruang. His nickname is Titan. He is, at this point, 11 years old, and in the team, he has the position of forward.
Okay.
There is Panumas Sangdi. His nickname is Mig. He is 13 years old, and he's a defender. There is Duganpet Promtep. His nickname is Dom. He is 13 years old, and he is the captain, and he is also the striker, so the one who strikes most of the goals. Not all of them, but most. There is Adul Samon. He is 14 years old. He is the left defender. Notably, he is the only one on this team who can speak reliable English due to his background. So he was born in Myanmar, Myanmar's self-governing Wa state, and he had left his family to get a better education. So he speaks English, Thai, Burmese, and Chinese at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, at the age of 14, which is really impressive.
Wow.
So we have Titan, Mig, Dom, and then Adul. Then there is Sampong Jaiwang, whose nickname is Pong. He's 13. He's the left wing. There is Mongkol Buniam. His nickname is Mark, which I think is funny.
Like all of them, I'm like, yeah, like I could see like
how
a story or something.
Yeah, Mark. So he is either 12 or 13. I'm not sure the full age, and I'm also not sure what position he played. There is Nadawut Takamrong. His nickname is Turn. He is 14. He's also a defender. There's Pirapat Sompiangjai. That's Knight, the one whose birthday it is. He is 17. He's a right winger. There is Ekarat Wang Sukchan. His nickname is Bew, B-E-W. He is 14. He is the goalkeeper. There is Project Sutham. His nickname is Note. He is another one that will be important later on.
He's of note.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. The number of times I almost said that. Yeah, and I was like, stop. So his nickname is Note. He is 15 years old. I'm not sure what position he played. There is pt.2. His nickname is Nick, another one that I found funny. He is also 15. I also don't know what position he played. There is Fonchai Tham Luang. His nickname is T. He is 16 years old. He is a defender. And then there is Ekapol Chatawang. His nickname is Ake. He is the assistant coach, who is 25 at the time. He is born in Myanmar and has lost his parents at a very young age. Prior to coaching this team, he was a Buddhist monk for several years, which will come into play in a little bit. But this is a photo that was
a team photo.
Yeah, posted to Facebook just before they go into the cave.
It's a lot of bikes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just such a classic, like,
the way they're
early
all...
high school, like late middle school photo. Like they're like not all of them are super thrilled about having their photo taken.
For me, it's the body language of they all have different answers to the question, how do I pose while on a bike?
How do I pose while on a bike?
Except for, and I can say this because we know they all turn out okay, there is one child in the dead center who has no idea photo is happening.
Yeah.
And is just slurping down some kind of drink on a straw. We have a kid who's posing. Yeah, they're just young kids.
Right?
Like
it's just exactly what you would think.
Correct. They're absolutely young kids who wouldn't think about like the cave might be flooded or even like the possibility of it. Like they are. It's actually really precious. They played soccer. They're gonna go explore a cave.
They just did their
and then that
soccer
night
practice.
is Knight's birthday.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we're gonna talk Monet. You gotta stop.
But you're the attention she can get. I am the elusive prize.
I know. Just need her to stop. Okay. So we're gonna talk about the search. So the parents raise the alarm like almost immediately. So the search, it takes a second for everyone to kind of get organized, but the search starts the next day.
Okay. Which
is June 24th of 2018. So a bunch of rescuers and government officials or whoever, they get into the cave. They get about a mile into the cave, and rescuers see that passageways are now full of muddy water that has risen quickly and seemingly out of nowhere. About 2 miles inside the cave, they do find bags and sandals, but are forced to evacuate due to rising waters.
Okay.
I believe there are maybe some divers with them at this point. But anyway. Day 2 passes, they're still trying to find the kids. No luck. Day 3, which is June 25th, the Thai Navy SEALs are called in. This is the country's elite divers. The rising waters force them back, even this team of elite divers in the cave. They do find handprints on the wall, but they are forced to evacuate due to the flooding. And it's important to remember at this point that these are Navy SEALs. They're trained... This is what I wrote. Remember, these are Navy SEALs, not underground SEAls.
I'm glad after the serious episodes that you've put together, beautifully, by the way. But when you do those kind of things, I know you really get into it.
Every once in a while, there's like a little moment where I'm like,
I've been glad that you've had this. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad you'll always have the underground SEAls read Navy SEAls.
They're Navy SEAls, not underground SEAls. So they have experienced diving, sure, but cave diving and
totally different.
Is very different from open water diving.
I'm open water diving. You're cave diving. That's what we've learned from our.
I don't think I would still
dueling cave episodes.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to find another way in, is what they're realizing. The cave is too difficult to traverse now that there's so much water that they can't really see through, and it's so much different from caving.
They're going to steal the Declaration of Independence. I completely get it.
Yeah, and then it's like going to be a flashlight that's going to guide them
Lemon
through.
Juice back, bake it in the oven, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, make the ink visible.
Yeah, exactly. So they do everything to find a way in. They're experimenting ways to pump water out of the cave with little success at first. They're also searching the mountain above, trying to find if there's an alternate way in.
Like a way in, yeah.
Yes. And this is where I mentioned I'm not sure what Monk's series, that other cave underground river, looks like. It doesn't seem like that was a viable way in if they did find it.
Okay.
Otherwise, it wasn't something that they found.
They're past the point where there's other routes into where they are.
They're still desperately trying to find one, though. Monk's series is not something that was, I think, really apparent to them until this 3D LiDAR scan that happened a year after.
Okay.
Or about a year after.
A year after the incident?
Yes.
Oh, so that 3D rendering comes after this incident, not before.
Because that was for the Nat Geo episode.
Oh.
Got him.
Nice. Good. That was good. That was really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, so now I'm even more interested about the human thumb impression that was made.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of lump together days 4 through 8 of the search. So this is June 26th.
4 through 8?
Yeah, 26th through the 30th.
They're in this cave that long?
Yeah. And we don't really know what's going on right now for them. We assume that they're going probably deeper as the rainwater continues to rise.
Like the boys are.
Yes, okay. But we don't know for sure. There's a man, Vern Unsworth. He is a local British caver who has explored this particular cave, the
This is like what,
Luang.
northwest, northeast,
northwest
Thailand.
Yeah.
And there's just a local British cave explorer.
Yeah.
The amount of times we've called upon that specific profession in our podcast, it's been at least twice, and that feels like a wild amount. That feels like an insane amount.
Cavers, I don't understand how...
Local British cavers.
Local British cavers. How did you get here? Yeah. So he has explored the Tham Luang cave before, and he has been assisting in the search since day one, because he's living in Thailand, I think, at this point. So the Navy SEALs are trained in open waters, not underground caves. And so he's recognizing that while they have a lot of expertise, they're probably not the best people for this job. So he gives the Thai authorities the names of some of the UK/Britain's most experienced cave divers. This includes John Velenthon, who works as an IT consultant, Rick Stanton, who's an ex-firefighter, and then Jason Mallinson and Chris Jewell. So these 4 men come from the UK. I'm not sure on the day jobs of the other 2. I couldn't find them. Also 2 people that join them are 2 Australian divers. It's Dr. Richard Harris, who works as an anesthesiologist, and then Dr. Craig Challen, who is a retired veterinary surgeon. So these people are called in. They come in during this day 4 through 8 period. I think they come in between the 26th and the 30th. But they're starting to help the search. The rain eventually lets up, which allows for increased search efforts as the rain's not constantly pouring in, making it more difficult. And the flow is easier to handle. The rescue team now consists of military, police, and hundreds of volunteers, including these expert cave divers. There's officially an international effort that include not only the British cave divers, but also the U.S. Air Force rescue specialists, as well as other cave divers and experts from elsewhere in the UK, Belgium, Australia, Scandinavia, China, and more.
And during days 4 through 8, what is the focus on? Is it still trying to find alternative routes in, or are they trying to figure out how to better effectively pump the cave?
So I think the divers are focused on getting to the kids, trying to locate the kids as quickly as possible. The rest of the team, I think, is trying to figure out or engineer ways to either make it easier for the divers to get to the kids or other ways into the cave.
Are they, at this point, kind of assuming they're looking for
bodies?
Okay.
Yeah. But remember what I said. This is a happy story.
We can root for everybody.
Survives. Everyone survives. But at this point, it should be noted that the people that are searching recognize the longer it takes for them to find it, they're thinking they're looking for bodies.
Right.
So notably, they try drilling into the mountain. They try to drain water from the cave. And also they try to find cracks that they could enter the cave system
They try to find a secret tunnel. Yeah, absolutely.
Secret tunnel. They try basically everything that worked for the 2010 rescue of the Chilean miners.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I think they essentially found another way in.
No water there.
No water. They found another crack, though, that they were able to drill. And then they were able to send down a cage to extract 1 or 2 at a time. So None of these efforts were very successful due to the thickness of the cave walls. And even after the fact, they've done studies on like the ground and how far the kids were in. And
how they would have
realistically, there was no way for them to find another way in.
Right.
So teams of volunteers are scouring the mountain to see if they can find another way in or a place where the wall of the cave might be thinner, where the drilling effort could be successful. But this effort is also difficult due to the muddy and densely jungled nature of the mountainside. And they also understand that if they drill in the wrong place, they could cause the cave to collapse, which could very easily cause the kids to die faster instead of rescuing them. So they're trying to be as careful as possible, but also recognizing that there's not an easy solution. So they're trying to also locate the team by using drones with thermal sensors. Unfortunately, this doesn't work because there's no way to scan for people that are that deep in underground. But they were hoping maybe there was a chance that they were closer. The drones were also utilized to try and find a different entrance to the cave, also to no great effect. There was also an underwater robot that was deployed to send information on the water depth and cave conditions. There were also dogs brought in to search for alternative ways into the cave after smelling clothing belonging to the team members, thinking that they could more easily locate maybe a crack that could be drilled into. There was a plan. I'm not sure if it ever happened. I found it in an article that was published during the midst of the rescue, so I'm not sure if it was ever implemented or they were just talking about it. But it was to send survival boxes through the underground rivers in hopes that at least one would reach the team. Yeah. The boxes contained food, maps, and mobile devices, as well as a note instructing them to take the contents and then float the box back out, saying, quote, "If received, then reply and show on the map where you are. Everybody will quickly help." So I'm not sure if this ever happened.
Right.
Either way, I feel like if the water is flowing towards them, it would have been really hard to float
send it back
out. Right. But again, that was an idea that they had. Rescuers also take to asking locals for advice or insight into the cave, and they find actually a member of the wild boar team who had skipped out on the cave trip that night. Whoa. And he recalled he's been in the cave with the team, and he recalled there's a part of the cave called the Pattaya Beach where he had visited with the team before. I think this might be where they do the initiation rite and stuff. So they kind of have an idea of like how far in it is and like what it might look like. Yeah.
Whoa, that's so lucky.
Right? Yeah. So they also find out from locals that the cave almost every single year is completely flooded by July 10th. So now they're
What day is it?
It is the very, very end of June. It's this. What I'm talking about is like 25th to the 30th. Yeah.
It's not like the mountain's going to drain and they have a month in to look for them.
Exactly.
It's bad. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's going to get worse. The longer you wait, the worse it'll be for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So meanwhile, the family of the missing kids have been camping outside of the cave since the 23rd. I want to remind everyone, the kids all survive. This is like a little sad, but again, kids all survive. There's a vigil that expanded over the course of the search that included friends, teachers, and other loved ones of the family or other loved ones of the team. Essentially, family members, like direct family members of the team, I think showed up day one, called it into the cops, and then like never left. Yeah. So the assistant coach's godmother, Tham Luang, carries fruits, incense, and candles every day up the mountain, saying, quote, "It was to show respect to the spirit that protects the caves. I asked her to protect the 13 kids." Yeah. So now we're on day 9 of the search. This is July 1st, which is a Sunday.
She climbed a mountain every day for her children.
Every day. Her godson. Not even her not even her like biological son.
Humans are awesome.
Yeah. Right? Okay. So day 9, this is the actual birthday of Night, I believe. There's 2 birthdays that happen while the kids are gone. One of them is the actual birthday of the original kid that they went in for the birthday of, and then another one is a different one. I think this one is Night. I wrote note. That seems wrong. It's Night. At this point, electric pumps are being used to pump water away from the caves. It should be noted that I said like the mountain is essentially a sponge. So even though rains have let up, like water is still coming in, but they're trying to pump as much water as they can out to prevent the water from spreading further
to rise,
in.
Right.
This also allows Navy SEALs to enter and look for them, as well as the other expert cave divers. everyone who's diving lays a guideline, or they follow a guideline and then help lay it as they get to uncharted territory so that they know how to get back. So they essentially are holding onto the guideline.
That's so
as
terrifying
because
you can't see anything in this mud, though. So it's like you have to be on the guideline. That's the only way you're getting out of this entire situation. And obviously there's the hope that like the locals said the cave's totally flooded by July 10th. You know, hopefully none of them were ever in this position where they're like actually deep enough in the cave, like air pockets emerge or anything. So you're hoping that like the cave never
no
actually
one even
fully
knows.
floods.
True. Like they know that they can't access it after July 10th, but they don't know what happens past that, which is terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Pause.
Sorry.
Wine refill.
I saw you pour it and immediately I was like, I don't. Nope, I don't have anything else
That's
to say.
whenever you started eating cheese last week, you were like,
and you'd be
anyway.
like, period. And I'd be like, yeah. Chipmunk mouth cheese.
So anyway. Okay, so they lie the guidelines so that they know how to get back. I also saw a source at some point that the pumping effort had to be stopped, but I think at some point it was like due to the nature of the pumps, and then they pick it back up later on. I'm not sure what the specifics of that specific endeavor looked like, but I do know that they continue later on. I'm not sure why they stopped. So essentially,
with the pumps or the guidelines?
The pumps.
Okay.
The guidelines continue forever. They're as long as divers are.
Part of
going.
me is like, where are they pumping it into? Like the surrounding fields? Or?
Yeah. I'll just mention this now. This isn't like a big deal. The water is pumping out into the rice fields nearby, which actually does kill all of those crops.
Like for that year, forever?
For that year.
Okay.
For that year. The rice, or the people that own those farms, though, never ask for compensation for those.
What?
Yeah, for
even
those
from
crops.
the government?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're just happy that those kids are found, I guess.
I just know a lot about farm subsidies.
I know, yeah.
So
yeah. Well, this is also Thailand.
No, I
so.
know, but it has shaped my political opinions.
Yes, I get it. So eventually the divers are able to reach what is called Chamber 3, which would serve as their base of operations for the remainder of the search. So essentially the cave kind of narrows and then opens, and then each of those like kind of bigger areas are called chambers. And so this is the third one since the opening. And all of these narrowings tend to be flooded or at least have water on the base. And I think everything up to Chamber 3 was something that you could at least walk through or like get through with.
Okay.
I think there is an area that's like chin height water, but you don't actually have to be underwater to get through it. So Chamber 3 is where they're able to get to once all the water is more so cleared out and the rainfall stops. And this is where they serve or they set up their base of operations for the rest of the cave divers. So air tanks are stored here.
Okay.
Like their wetsuits, like medical professionals, other divers are waiting here. Unfortunately, at this point, like we kind of already talked about, many of the rescuers and onlookers believe that they are looking for bodies, not the kids anymore. So now we're July 2nd, day 10, which is a Monday. The search effort is continuing. They're laying guidelines as they go. John Volathan and Rick Stanton.
Because it's not like just one tunnel. Like it's like a numerous like web kind of stuff.
Essentially one tunnel.
Okay.
I don't think anyone really understands that Monk series comes in to the Samyuk Junction. I think essentially it's one tunnel. I think what makes it difficult is the nature of the cave itself, that there is like is this actually something I can get through? Or because you have to essentially feel around with your hands, right? And then the water makes it even more difficult. So John Volathan and Rick Stanton, who are two of the UK cave divers, they've been diving through passageways for several days now, and then they finally find Pattaya Beach, which is what that other team member said, hey, I think this is probably where they were headed. But there's no sign of life here. A few hundred meters beyond Pattaya Beach, they do find an air pocket, and so the divers kind of come up for air. And what I saw that they said is that they realized that the stench was so bad that they were like, there's probably bodies here. No, it was just the kids.
Oh my God.
They find all of the children, all 12 kids, and the assistant coach that are
alive.
alive.
An air pocket just past the beach.
Just past Pattaya Beach.
So they had been at Pattaya Beach. Things started to flood, and they went.
Figure out a way up.
Okay.
Yep. They took But how are the kids alive? They took no supplies with them. Like, how are they objectively alive? This is day 10. So they're in chamber 9. So
chamber 3, they're up in chamber 9.
They're in chamber 9, which is half a mile from Samyak Junction.
Oh my God.
And 4 kilometers, aka 2.5 miles from the entrance. In chamber 9, there's a small passage off of the main one that leads 14 feet above the water line and like a few hundred feet up, I think, or 100-ish feet above the rest of the cave. So
hold on. So they're in chamber 9?
They're in chamber 9.
That's above everything else? Or there's an air pocket?
There's like a separate little kind of ancillary tunnel that leads directly up. So I think they saw maybe like, hey, this goes up. We should go up.
Right.
And so they went up this thing.
Good on them for not losing their sense of direction.
Yeah, exactly. So they get up there, and then I think the water maybe stops rising, and they're like, okay,
we've survived
this.
We're
We're safe here. Let's stay here.
Get down to where the water level is.
Yes.
Keep following the water down.
Exactly. So this is where that thumb-looking thing comes into play, because they had been using rocks to dig into that shelf.
They're digging themselves out.
They're trying to. Yeah.
Do they know what direction they're trying to go?
They're just trying to dig. They're like, what else do you do?
Yeah.
You know, and they're also trying.
Conserve air and energy.
Hi.
Welcome. Had to get more wine.
I had to get more wine, and also the recording decided to stop for no apparent reason. So if Grant acts less than shocked at some of the information I'm about to tell you, just know that I did tell him to act surprised.
I need you to also really kind of see me for who I am. There's a good chance I have forgotten a lot of this information.
How much of that wine is left?
Okay, so we're just asking the big questions. I shouldn't be able to see your face through it, and yet I can.
Or like very similar.
Nice.
Okay, cool. I'll just refill this while I'm at it.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So I think if I saw the recording correctly, had just gotten to the point where the divers find the children.
And I need to kind of remember where they are in the story, because obviously we moved ahead, realized what happened, took a second out of the studio to take a breather, and then Casey came down, and we just had a hoot and a half for a second.
About Grant's life.
Oh, okay. So we're just going to go ahead and name it directly. Nope. Thank you. He doesn't listen, which is probably a red flag that I will ignore until later. When I'm walking barefoot across
Have
this.
You told him that?
Yes.
About the podcast?
I thought it was cool at first. Now it pisses me off.
I feel like that gif of what the character from that.
You're going to have to give me one word. You're going to have to give me
It's like a
something.
Muppets thing almost, and then the eye, it's like a bear or something that's like facing this way, and just the eyes turned towards the camera.
Cut to me walking barefoot across a ski lodge
and then getting
Keystone.
Yelled at by an Australian woman.
Right. Also known as a near and dear friend.
Yeah.
That's probably when I'll process this later.
It's just really funny.
Speaking of trauma.
Yeah, these people
flawless
are
segue. We should win awards for our
in
segues.
The chamber. We just talked about how they had
our tone change has to be so abrasive to them.
Oh, yeah.
And we're sorry. We're sorry. But this is who we
built
are.
for ADHD people. I don't understand.
Was that in parentheses or not in parentheses?
It was the double parentheses inside the parentheses. That's what we haven't seen yet from one of our listener emails. We've seen parentheses, immediate parentheses following.
Correct.
We need a parentheses inside a parentheses. Inception parentheses.
When I have gotten to Inception parentheses, I have managed to get to the stage now where I stop myself and I go, wait, hold on. There's at least one full sentence in here somewhere.
Which one of these parentheses can be a hyphen? Where can I put a semicolon?
Hey, let's do some crazy work with semicolons right now.
Let's just ignore all grammar rules. Okay. Sorry that you had to experience us talking very seriously about this topic, and now we're here.
Right.
So anyway, they dug a shelf, which is the shelf that they found. They
okay,
made.
So where they are in the story is the soccer players were the ones digging the shelf themselves.
Yes.
And remind me, are they trying to escape, or are they just trying to widen their space? What's going on there?
There's a chance they're just trying to. I can't remember if I said this before the recording cut off, but it was really steep.
Right.
coming out of the water. And then I believe before this cut off, I did show you this, or after I cut off. It's really steep coming out of chamber 9. And then they go up and then they dig this thing that I think is more of a horizontal
So somewhere they can lay
floor
down.
that they can at least sit on without feeling like they're like kind of slipping.
Okay.
Maybe. There is also a chance that they were trying to dig their way out. However, further investigation, the LiDAR scans will show that there are 2,000 feet of solid rock above them. So there is no realistic chance of them getting out, but they don't know that at the time.
Do you at some point in today's episode talk about the horror movie The Descent?
No.
Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about
Nope.
though? Okay, then I'm not going to tell you anything about it.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead. Well, okay, twist my arm. No, I'm kidding. I'll give you a review of The Descent in Patreon.
Yeah.
Adding that to the notes.
Perfect. So they had survived off of the water that was dripping off of the walls. And before anyone else freaks out like I did, there was not really a limited air supply. The air supply does become an issue, and we will talk about it. However, it's not the primary issue at the time because the rocks of the cave are so porous and there's cracks that allow air in. And so the timeline that everyone is really focused on is of the rain and the water buildup as opposed to the air depleting in the area. So also reportedly, the team and the assistant coach are repeatedly saying to each other, Su, which is Thai for keep fighting, in a way to remain calm. And then do you want to pull up that video that you pulled up?
Yes, yeah.
When the recording stopped. So Rick and John, when they emerge, they're shocked to see the kids because the kids are kind of emerging from the darkness. And Grant's going to play the video again. But they're coming out of the darkness towards the ledge. And John says, "How many of you?" And then someone, presumably a duel, says 13 in English. John responds then, 13, brilliant. And then Rick says, "They're all alive." And so this is a famous video from the body cam footage, essentially from the divers.
Something that was hard for me to verbalize the first time I saw it, because again, like you were hitting me with the information right away. It is, for it being a camera that came on a man who scuba dived there.
Yeah.
Actually really good
Very
video
clear,
quality and audio quality.
Yes.
How many of you? 13. Brilliant.
And so they're all presumably talking to a duel who will then translate whatever it is to English for them. And then Rick and John actually stay with the boys for a little bit, presumably to boost their morale. And then they end up leaving their flashlights with the team and then promise to return to the team with food. So day 11, this is the day after the kids are found. This is July 3rd. Rescuers get to them with food, medication, foil blankets, and it takes a while for them to get to them just because of the difficult nature of the cave and diving and everything. Like Rick and John are able to get there after essentially 6-ish days maybe of exploring this cave, and they then need to kind of lead the Navy SEAL divers and other divers over there. So it takes a good amount.
Chamber 3, their base to where they find them in Chamber 9. When you showed me the map, it's a wild distance between these two places.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second, but yeah.
It speaks, I think, a lot to the perseverance of the human spirit, of, I think, adult humans' natural inclination to do everything they can to protect children. Because the distance, obviously I'm not a cave diver and I'm not there, so maybe there's scale or context that I'm missing, but the distance between Chamber 3, which is their launching point, and Chamber 9, where the boys are found, is well past the point of
like
they're still alive. And it's not even necessarily like the distance itself that they're covering, but it's so clear that a lot of the distance that they cover is really narrow chambers. It's like, I'm now in the part of the cave where there isn't going to be this huge place where they could all possibly be, right? Like it's an intimidating distance.
Yeah. Exactly. So they eventually get the kids food, meds, foil blankets, etc. Some of I think of 2 Navy SEAL divers, as well as one of the military medics, who I believe is one of the Australian doctors. It is Dr. Richard Harris. They end up staying with the kids. And the plan is that those people will stay with the kids for the duration of the remainder of the rescue.
And they're saying they're kind of to like serve the children, but without any guarantee that the water will get pumped out, or that the rains won't get worse, or that the Thai government and the rescuers are going to figure out a way to rescue these kids.
Exactly. And Grant and I talked about this in the lost recordings of this portion.
Another one. We love it.
Another one. Luckily, it was only like 15, 20 minutes or so. But at some point, these rescuers, the Navy SEALs and the doctor, recognize that there could be a moment that they will have to then choose between their own lives and the kids' lives, right?
I mean, obviously we know how the story turns out, but they don't in the moment.
Yes. I will remind you that all the kids and the assistant coach make it. But again, this is a difficult choice that they have to make.
Because if the cave does start to flood again, obviously it's like women and children first. You could give up your seat on the lifeboat, but most of these kids don't know how to swim.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Like giving up your space, still almost certain perish for the children who you give it up for, they need a formal rescue plan. They can't just toss some equipment at these kids and hope they survive.
Yes, exactly. They can't give up their life for them.
And there's an emotional aspect to this that we actually didn't talk about in the lost recording. The lost tapes. Is it tapes or recording? We got to get normed for the next 15 minutes. Tapes, lost tapes. That not only is that like agonizing if you have to make that choice, but it's also agonizing while you're with those children, aware that you might have to make that choice.
Do I get emotionally attached to these kids?
Right. Who are obviously impressive young people who have an ordeal that you want to learn about, you want to talk to them about. I mean, we're talking about them right now. You know?
Literally, they were there for 10 days without any human contact, essentially, not knowing if anyone was going to ever find them. The boys at this point beg their rescuers for something called pad krapao, which is a rice dish with stir-fried meat and basil. Unfortunately, that's logistically impossible to get to them. And also, the medic is keeping them on a special diet of medicated liquid food and mineral water with added vitamins because they haven't eaten for 10 days.
First, something I said on the lost tapes. You telling me this is basil's from Thai? Yeah. So dumb, but glad to say it is every time. Additionally, it's so fun. It's related, I promise. It's so fun hiking or skiing with Lydia. Yeah. Because at any moment, she's going to pull off to the side and from a breast pocket you did not know she had, have a small squirtable packet of applesauce.
I love her so much.
I have seen, this is the main episode, but we're deep enough into the main episode for me to say it. I have seen this girl chase Fireball with applesauce on the side of a mountain more times than I care.
That's actually such a fire chaser.
We've all made the right life choices to put ourselves in the position to be able to do stuff like that. Yeah. And for that, I am infinitely grateful. And I love my life and I love the people in it. And I am grounded enough to know that's a wild thing to watch your best friends do.
That's actually super fair. Yeah. So now we found the children. However, that is but one issue that we have to solve. The next issue is how do we get them out? We are now in day 12, which is July 4th. Which I did on the lost tapes of
right. You were like
America,
July 4th, right? So, anyways, they're in Thailand, and
America.
It's just wild to hear that both in the context of this story and in the context of this time. Yeah.
Yes.
You didn't just fall out of a coconut tree.
I didn't.
You exist in the context
America.
And all in which happened in the last 10 days.
Usually on July 4th, I am getting ready to leave the country, as in this year when we went to Vancouver and a couple years ago when I went to Japan.
Right.
I'm there. Okay.
Very much excited for family meal this year.
Yes.
Because everyone in my immediate family is so horrified by what has happened to this country.
Good.
I told my mom that I'm reading fiction to disassociate from everything. And normally my mom's like, that's frivolous. You have a job to do, multiple, in fact, and grad school. There's time for married men when you're dead. Yeah. But right now my mom's like, and you only have to read books for 4 more years.
Yeah. I love Teresa.
Yeah. This year I'm pitching mulled wine to go with our charcuterie boards.
Oh.
I know.
That's
I know.
Good. Okay. Back to day 12, July 4th, 2018. How do we get them out? Remember, it took the Thai Navy SEALs, who is a team of elite divers, as well as expert cave divers, to even get to the place that the kids are. And even they struggled. they needed the help of the experts with explicit expertise in cave diving, not just diving. And so Grant alluded to this earlier, which he shouldn't have said because it was before the time that he was supposed to know it.
Oh, my bad.
From the
Sorry.
lost tapes. Some of the kids that are trapped, some of the boys don't even know how to swim, let
right.
alone scuba dive.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't care. Let alone scuba dive. And like, obviously scuba diving is like a lot more intense and kind of involved than just swimming is, you know, because it's like a whole mind game as well as understanding like your equipment and everything. And so at this point, they're like, we have 3 options of how to save these kids. Option 1, wait for the monsoon rains to pass, meaning that they will be stuck there for months.
Some horrific Stanford prison study experiment on unwilling children whose parents have literally started to live outside the cave entrance.
Yeah. So that's option 1. Obviously, I think pretty quickly they're like, this isn't a realistic option, but that is an option. Option 2, they find another route into the place that they are from above. So far, they're only finding dead ends, and it seems like the only way in is this. The only way out is the same way that they took in. And like I mentioned earlier, like drilling into this area, they're risking cave collapse more so than they are like
anything else
realistically going to find the kids.
Right.
So option 3 is that they scuba dive out. So let's talk about why diving in Tham Luang is so dangerous. So when the cave floods, there are 5 sections that are known as sumps where the water collects. Okay, these are areas that have a slightly lower elevation than other areas of the cave. So this is where the water line will exist. And theoretically, at some point, the cave will maybe entirely flood. But at this point, there are the 5 sumps. One of these sumps is 1,000 feet long. And it is the closest to where the boys are in Chamber 9. Notably, in these sumps, in a lot of areas, the water will get all the way up to the roof. So there is no air pocket.
It'll completely flood.
Yeah, it'll completely flood. So you need to be diving. There is no way for you to keep your head above water, right? This is the length of 7 Olympic swimming pools, which is, I mean, kind of insane. I can barely do regular swimming down one Olympic swimming pool.
Barely do one regular swimming.
So there are also areas in these sumps where the cave is so narrow that divers have to remove the tanks just to get through.
I'm just being reminded right now, it's like when you swim in a pool as big as an Olympic swimming pool and it's kind of hard to see the other end and your brain immediately goes shark.
Shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is murky dark
water. Yeah. I completely skipped this little bullet last time, so I'm glad we were doing this.
Oh, great, good.
So the area where you would have to take off your tank to get through, this is the reason. These areas are the reason that a solution of kid-sized submarines, which was proposed by Elon Musk,
God,
was quickly ruled out.
I would rather die in a cave than die in something Elon Musk built for me.
To be fair, it might have just been Elon Musk's engineers, and then Elon Musk tweeted it out on Twitter at the time. But anyway, it was ruled out as, I think it was still only maybe a foot tall, but like some of these kids are tiny, right? And like some of these divers are like exceptional athletes. Like a foot might actually be too much, you know? So in total, between the kids and Chamber 3, where the diving base is, there is half a mile worth of sumps. Visibility within these waters is almost zero. The divers report that they could only see a few centimeters in front of them, meaning like, as Grant had pointed out in the lost tapes. That if you put your hand out in front of you, you can't see it depending on how close it is.
You can't see your hand, and you also probably can't see your elbow.
Yeah. The divers described it as like swimming through cold coffee. So I'll show this to you one more time of where the kids are versus Chamber 3. This is like a diagram of the sumps versus Chamber 3.
There's one part that the turn ends up being almost 180 degrees. Yeah. And then that means there's at least like one other 90-degree turn that happens pretty soon afterwards.
Yeah.
We talked about it in the Lost Tapes. How...
Jesus,
good. I knew we were gonna get it. I knew we were gonna get synced up, and it's great to do on an episode like this where we like it all turns out okay. And you saw it on. You see, Anderson Cooper was in a tank top for a little bit, like you know. I mean,
Yes.
you understand what
It
newspapers
was
is
David
like.
Muir in
Hey,
this case,
remember
but yeah.
how literally a week ago I was like, Anderson Cooper's a Vanderbilt, and you were like, what?
Yeah, that still shocks
I'm like,
me, actually.
everyone. It's the fulfillment of the family curse. The bloodline dies with him because he's also homosexual.
Yeah, also gay. Yeah. Yeah. I love his relationship with Andy Cohen. I don't know, like.
Are they married? Are they in a relationship
I don't
together?
think so.
The map is impressive, and what we had
Get back to the topic at hand, Grant.
we had gotten so focused in the serious parts, and now
Yeah.
that we're in like the review part,
And
of
now
this,
that we're like,
and
let's
trying to
say
like
it one more time.
trying to rekindle some of the
Yeah,
storylines
yeah.
we developed, we're clearly much more cavalier.
Yeah.
What we had said in the last tape, though, was that it's a distance that's long enough that you completely understand giving up.
Yeah.
because of how far it is.
Yeah. It's just so long. It's not even that like the physical distance itself is so long. It's that like the difficulty of that distance is so long too. So meanwhile, as they're trying to like develop a plan to get the kids out, there's a makeshift town that forms outside of the entrance of the cave for the press, the families, the rescuers, the first aid, etc. There's like food stalls being set up. Some of them are being staffed by the Tyrol kitchen, which I would have loved to see what they were serving out there. But
I kind of forget that Thailand has a royal family.
me too.
Okay.
But they have a real kitchen. They're serving free drinks, hot noodles, chicken rice, and ice pops. As a reminder, this is happening in like the middle of summer. Everyone in this local community steps up as well, not just the volunteers that have been flown in from all over, but people who are there are volunteering to clean the toilets, which have been stretched beyond capacity. There are drivers volunteering to give free lifts between the city and the rescue camp. And there's a local laundromat that's offering free cleanings for rescuers whose clothing is covered in mud. I'm not sure if it was actually free or if they got compensated. The laundromat is the only one I couldn't really confirm that they were offering free things, but I will show you this one more time, Grant, from the lost tapes, the rescue camp.
Right.
Yes.
And like they got a whole like they have
It's
the
a
pumps
huge
there.
camp.
Yeah.
The pumps are like pumping out towards kind of the entrance of the camp, but then there's like a whole area for press. There's a whole area for relatives.
For our American listeners, I did not see any parking.
No parking, none at all. There's also an entire restricted area, mainly for rescuers and the field hospital. So they're developing a plan. This is on, I believe, day 12. This is the plan that they're settling on. The first half mile into the cave is all dry all the way up to chamber 3 before the first sump. So this first sump will happen right outside of cave chamber 3, and then it go 1 through 5. The fifth one being the longest sump right by where the kids are. Chamber 3 is going to be their diving base where all the divers would leave from. The medical experts are staying, etc. So each of the divers, they're thinking it'll take the dive team 3 hours to get from chamber 3 to where the soccer team is. When they get there, 4 of the boys would be equipped with scuba gear, including a full face air mask like Blue People Avatar, not like the mouth like scuba mask that you're probably envisioning. I think that's probably just easier for them to manage. Each of these boys would then be paired with one of the cave divers. The cave divers would then leave chamber 9 in 30-minute intervals, heading back to chamber 3. And using this plan, it would take a full day, essentially, to extract just 4 of the boys using the 4 UK divers, because the 2 Australian expert divers are either staying with the boys or staying in the first aid area. Because they're both doctors. They're needed. Because of the length of the dive, the divers and the boys would both need replacement oxygen tanks on their way. So there are cave divers that are going between chamber 3 and the locations that are drier to leave these air tanks. There's about 50 of them placed between all of the dry areas between the sumps. So there's 7 support divers that would also be waiting between sumps to haul equipment and provide medical backup should it be needed for the duration of the dive.
Okay.
Once each diver and kid pair reach chamber 3, the boy would then be taken from the diver and then put onto a stretcher and then carried by a team of at least 5 men. At one point, the stretcher would need to be put on a raft and pulled across chin-height water.
In like a horizontal elevator kind of situation, as opposed to traditional vertical shaft.
Yes, literally.
It's a horizontal elevator to get them out of there.
Yeah, and then...
And it's not built. Like, it's not like it comes in the cave.
No, and then the stretcher would then be attached to like a rope, a pulley system, essentially, and would be passed along a human chain up through the entrance of the cave out to the medical professionals that are in the rescue camp. And so I'll show you this one more time just for the sake of having time to show it on the YouTube.
Right.
This is like a diagram of
I noticed that on the second image. I was like, I know. Oh, right. We're going to show it to them.
We have to show it to the people.
This actually is a really cool photo, though.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So once the kid is at the camp, they would then be given oxygen, put on an ambulance, and then they would be sent to Chiang Rai City to a hospital.
Okay.
So they've developed this plan on day 12. We're on now day 13, July 5th. This is the day that they're doing kind of a dry run of the entire rescue. A dress rehearsal, as Grant referred to it last time. This is July 5th. And so the rescuers are continuing to pump water out of the caves to try and make it easier for the rescuers. And then they're doing this dry run. The plan is then to do the rescue on day 14. So day 14 comes. This is July 6th. Unfortunately, 1:30 a.m., news breaks that a former Navy SEAL has died during rescue operations. This is Saman Kunan. He was 38 at the time. He was one of the support divers who was going to place the air tanks in the location in the dry areas between sumps. He is an ex-Thai Navy SEAL. He had volunteered his time to come and do this.
I didn't know he was a volunteer.
Yeah, I didn't mention that last time. I forgot. It's a good thing that we're doing this again.
Yeah.
So he was diving to put the air cylinders over there, and it's thought that he passed out after his own air ran out while he was doing this. His dive partner, who I don't have the name of, pulled him out and then tried to revive him, but at this point it was too late. The funeral for Saman would take place later that day, overseen by Buddhist monks, and his wife, Wali Gunan, said, Sanan once said, "We never know when we're going to die, so we need to cherish every day." And I think now we're...
Yeah, this is all like that. That was the
right
quote.
Where you recognize
because I looked down to process it, and I was like,
okay.
Oop.
Yeah, so it's really sad. He does get recognized. He is the only fatality. I just want to like reestablish the fact that he is the only fatality in this story. So you can be
incredibly
sad about him.
brave for him to volunteer
very brave,
for the mission,
especially as a volunteer, like not even being told he needs to go there. So this death affects the rescue team drastically. In fact, they're kind of like reevaluating the rescue mission.
Rescue,
is that they're recognizing that the dive is difficult enough to kill someone as athletic and experienced as Suman. Suman notably had even represented Thailand in several triathlons.
Oh, wow.
So he was like athletic, you know. This is a quote from one of the boys' Note's mother. She said, quote, "The Navy SEAL had practiced for so long and was so strong, but also died. How about a boy who has never dived before?" So clearly, like, everyone is like, oh shit, like, they're not kidding when they say this is like a really difficult dive. And when I told you that oxygen was not really the limiting factor in this is where it comes back into play. They do notice that oxygen levels are starting to drop in chamber 9 where the boys are. They were now at 15%. It's normal oxygen levels in like regular ambient air is 21%. So they are noticing a drop. But it still is not a big issue that's going to push the timing. Later in the same day on July 6th, rescuers are able to set up an oxygen supply into that chamber. So yes, it is an issue. No, it's not like
a huge pressing
issue. At this point, the rescuers have obviously delayed the timing of the rescue mission.
Right, they haven't launched it yet.
Yes, but they are offering to take letters back and forth between the group and their families over the course of the next several days. So Pong, one of the boys, he was 13, wrote to his parents that he loves them, and he's saying, quote, "Don't worry about me, I'm safe." And they reply to him, quote, "Take good care of yourself and be strong. like dash dad, mom, and everyone are waiting for you. T, who is 16, wrote to his parents, "Don't worry, I'm very happy." Nick, who's 15, told his parents he wants to go to Mukatha, which is Thai barbecue, when he gets out.
Mom, Dad, take me to Hoo-Ha.
Yeah, literally. And then the assistant coach, Ake, wrote to his parents, not his parents, the parents, apologizing for taking the boys into the cave network. And the parents kind of all replied to him saying that they don't blame him. The parents said, quote, "Coach Ake, don't blame yourself. I want Coach Ake to be relaxed. The mums and dads, none of them are angry at you. And everyone understands you and sends you good wishes and encouragement. Thank you for helping us and take good care of the kids. Coach Ake, Coach Ake, you went inside with them. You must come out with them too. And you must come out safely." And he responded, quote, "I promise I will take care of the kids as best I can." And take care of the kids he does. Because remember I told you he used to be a monk?
Oh, yeah.
So when he was a monk, he learned how to conserve energy by restricting movements and how to meditate to stay calm and conserve air. And these are all techniques that he teaches the kids.
In the cave.
In the cave, which it probably explains some of how they were so relatively calm when people found them, is that they were like, he had been teaching them how to like totally relax and understand what happens and all of that stuff. So we're now at day 15. This is July 7th. There are forecasts of incoming rain.
Day 15 is a wild amount of time.
Especially because they found them on day 10. So now there's been 5 days of having like intermittent communication, but also still not knowing.
But to be underground for 2 weeks, your skin has to start itching at a certain point.
Gosh, yeah.
You know, just
especially
like the claustrophobia of it all.
Yeah, and that humidity, no. Yeah. Maybe that's just me coming from Denver, but whatever.
No, the curse about living in Denver happily for the last couple of years
I'm like, I don't want
everywhere
I don't
feels
want
like a swamp.
moisture skin.
Yeah.
I don't want moisturized skin.
Everywhere feels like a swamp.
Yes.
I woke up one morning, lips bone dry. I was like, thank God it's winter. I love this city.
Yeah,
Chapstick,
thank God
chapstick,
it's winter.
chapstick.
Okay, so July 7th, they realized there are forecasts of incoming rain. And remember, the locals said July 10th is the day that usually like no-go after that. So efforts are beginning to speed up, and Thai authorities, seemingly out of the blue, ask journalists and any non-rescue related volunteers to leave the rescue camp, assuming they probably left the family at least nearby. But they announced that we're getting the kids out now.
Right.
But why do they clear the area? Because that seems like a weird thing to do, especially since the whole world now is watching this rescue mission. The greatest threat, to address that question, the greatest threat to the kids at this point is not necessarily the cave, but the mindset of the kids themselves. Because the strategy that they're using is to let the kids scuba dive out. But they've kind of proven that the mindset really affects the scuba dive, even with Saman passing away, but also just in general understanding the dangers of scuba diving. So panic is a very real issue for the boys and the cave divers that will be rescuing them. What the Thai authorities say they do to combat the potential of the kids to panic is to give all of the kids and the assistant coach anti-anxiety medication. What we now know they actually did is they decide that the only way they will be able to succeed is to sedate the kids.
Oh.
So doctors...
How?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. It's actually incredibly complicated. So doctors make a special mix of anesthetics. Remember, the military medic who is the one staying with them is an anesthesiologist.
So it's not just like 16 bottles of NyQuil.
It's not just like
funnel.
hope you hope you pass out. No, it's so he.
What is it? The thing that the melatonin.
Melatonin.
So it's not enough melatonin.
It's like 45
gummies.
grams of melatonin, insane amount. So doctors make a special mix of anesthetic for each child, depending on their age and probably approximate weight. I'm guessing.
Especially after spending 2 weeks underground.
Yeah. So the effort is overseen by the medic who's in the cave with the boys, Richard Harris, as well as another Australian cave diver, the other Australian cave diver, Craig Challen, who is also a medical specialist. So the sedative that they end up going with is a mix of Xanax and ketamine. Oh, and probably some other things. I think it.
Xanax and ketamine? What is this, Pride weekend?
I'm assuming it was other versions of those name brand drugs.
Sure. I get it.
Yes, yeah.
But essentially.
Yeah, I think that's probably the oversimplified version for the public now to understand. But yeah, ketamine does have to be injected though. So one source said that
we're back.
Yeah, we're back again.
Sorry, but it's a serious tone because that's where we were just at. Yeah.
So
go ahead. Continue.
So there is one source that says the expert cave divers actually are the ones that kind of push this decision, saying like, we're not doing this unless we can ensure that the kid's mindset is not going to put our lives at risk.
Right.
Which, like, you could argue is selfish, but also, like, definitely makes sense, especially after they've been in this cave now for, like less than 15 days, but still, like, a long time. Like, they understand the dangers.
And, I mean, horrific, but an incident in some of these, like, funnel situations closes the funnel.
Yes.
Until you can remove what is now obscuring the path.
Exactly. So I bet the reason that the Thai authorities said everyone out of this rescue camp right now is that they didn't want it getting out to the media as they're completing the rescue mission over the next couple days and have all these like ethical people come in and be like, how dare you do that?
Drug
you
these
know?
children.
And so I bet that's probably why they did that. But it should be noted that this poses a whole new risk and issue, which then pushes the extraction out, I think, one more day. Yeah, one more day. At least, where they need to work out how they're going to keep the kids under for the duration of the rescue. Because they need something that's going to keep them under, but still keep them alive. While their body is put into cold water.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Forgot about that element.
So it'll take about 3 to 5 hours to get each boy out safe, but a safe dose of the sedative would last 1 hour or less.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
are they going to have... Sorry, tell me what are they going to do?
The divers have to learn how to inject the kids.
Shut up.
With sedative.
Like in the different chambers.
In the air pockets between sumps. Yeah.
So that first one, the long one, you're like, you have an hour.
Yeah.
You got to get them through. And how... are you going to tell me in a second, how do they pitch it to the kids?
From what I understand, the kids were fine with it. I'm not sure if they found out before the fact or after the fact, but I haven't seen anything that said that the kids were like,
I don't want
to. Yeah, it was like they were like, get me out.
Those children are grown adults because they're like, if I could actually not remember most of this harrowing experience,
I would love that.
You and me with rom-coms the next 4 years.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially the divers who are in charge of the rescue, the 4 UK divers, the 4 British divers, need to learn how to use needles during this day that they've pushed the rescue back by, you know? So this is where I talk about that. It should be noted that while some people were aghast when the news finally breaks about the sedation after the fact of the rescue, it seems the boys themselves were okay with it.
Not as scandalous.
Yeah, so here's from a Nat Geo article, quote, "And who could blame them? It was if they had fallen down a well filled with primordial human horrors from total darkness to asphyxiation, drowning to hypothermia, starving to being buried alive."
Oh my God.
Were you getting paid per syllable?
English should not be utilized in this way. That's not what this language is for.
I was like, God damn. Okay. So on one hand, and it's going to get dark for like a quick second before I say this, I want to remind you, everyone survives.
Right.
Everyone was hopeful they would successfully extract at least 2 boys.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Say that again?
The doctors and everyone involved was hopeful that if 2 boys made it out,
2
it would
of
be
the
a
13
successful.
survived.
Yeah. It would be a success for them. The doctor is even quoted saying, like, he was genuinely concerned that the first 2 boys that were rescued would not make it, and then they would have to revamp the entire rescue operation.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Again, I'm going to remind you, everyone makes it, but just to remind you like how dire these circumstances are, like even these experts and medical professionals are like I realistically don't see like 100% positive outcome here.
Right.
So now the rescue. Day 16, July 8th. More rain is forecast soon, so they really, really need to move like right now. If they rescue 4 kids a day as anticipated, they will be bringing out the last group on the day that the locals say the cave will be completely flooded by. So everyone is fully prepared that some of the kids aren't going to make it. They're like ready for that outcome. Each day, 18 expert divers would be required to extract 4 of the boys. 4 of those divers are the ones actually like taking the sedated boys through the cave. The rest are support divers replacing air tanks, providing medical support between sumps, etc. Jason Mallinson is one of the British divers. He runs the first rescue of the 14-year-old Prachak Sutham. His nickname is Note.
Why do they choose to take Note out first? What's the?
I am truly not sure.
Okay.
But he's the one that we joked was of note.
Right.
He's of note.
Okay.
He's the first one out. Note was strapped with one air cylinder attached to a buoyancy vest. And then he also had straps for Jason to hold on to. Some of the divers said that it was like almost like a shopping bag kind of situation.
And he's like dragging him through these tunnels. He's kind of holding on to him. I think
it's more like a skydiver. He's keeping him kind of to his chest, but he needs they're strapped, but it needs to be a way that they can like de-strap so that they can go through the narrower parts.
Okay.
Note has a mask, like the full face mask on. Jason then has 2 air cylinders on him, and then a tether from him to Note.
But they're hoping that Note's mask stays tight enough that it's not like it comes unsealed and floods.
Yeah. You have to watch the mask itself. You have to make sure that...
And it's like impossible to see anything in this water.
Yes. Jason would need to shield Note's face with his body in order to ensure that the mask doesn't fall out of place. And then Note's hands are tied to his sides in case he wakes up, for both of the diver and his own safety. So at 1 p.m., they begin the first journey out. Note is sedated, and they're heading into the first sump, or the 5th sump, whichever way you want to think about it. It's the longest sump, the 1,000-foot one. The biggest fear for the divers is that they lose contact with the guideline or lose contact with the boy.
Yeah.
Because remember, like, they are strapped, but there are situations wherein they need to de-strap from the boy and hold on to the guideline as well as the kid. And if you lose either of those...
Or if the kid gets bumped and his mask comes off, or if he wakes up when that is happening...
It's over, like, essentially. Like, there's a chance you make it, but, like, any of those situations can result in, like, real catastrophe. So behind Jason and Note, remember, they're leaving at 30-minute intervals. So 30 minutes after Jason and Note leave, Chris Jewell, one of the other British divers, leaves with 15-year-old Nick. And then
30 minutes later, you said?
Yeah. Okay. And then 30 minutes after Chris and Nick, 2 more divers leave. And then 30 minutes after them, 2 more divers leave. Or another diver and a kid, you know. So Tham Luang's first constriction happens in that first sump that they go into. Eventually, the diver and kid would hit the roof of the cave, and that's how you know you're at that first constriction.
Okay. Is that 180-degree turn?
I'm not sure where it's at. But this constriction is a low passage that is just 30 inches high, which means that your back is to the roof and your chest is to the floor. And even experienced divers were struggling and would need to like back up and then retry that like constriction.
Because it's just barely over 2 feet wide.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would be diving along.
And to think that those kids had to climb through that when it was dry, outrunning the water.
Yes. Crazy.
And that they all did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is now some of the testimony from the divers. You would be diving along and then you would start to feel the kid twitching. Between 2 of the sumps, Jason Mallinson runs into an issue while the boy he is rescuing begins to wake up. I'm not sure which day this is, but the boy he is rescuing on one of these days begins to wake up. And he is between sumps, but he's still chest deep in water. And he needs to ideally inject the boy in the thigh. So he's chest deep in water. He's carrying probably like a preteen boy,
Right.
and needs to figure out, like, can I make it to the dry area to inject this boy in the thigh, or like, what do I do? And eventually he realizes the boy is like really waking up. So he manages to pin the boy against the wall with his leg while he manages to open his like quote unquote dry bag that has the needles and ketamine and whatever he's using. And he luckily manages to like finagle the boy's leg up to get the sedation, like the needle into his thigh.
Are the boys in like a wetsuit or something? Or are they just in their like soccer uniform?
I'm not sure. I want to say they were in some kind of protective thing, but I truly don't know. So.
And that knocks the kid back out.
Yeah, knocks the kid back out, and he continues. So after 2 hours.
Oh my God. I didn't realize they had to inject him like 3 or 4 times throughout the whole mission.
Multiple times, yeah. So after 2 hours, they've gotten the boys through 4 sumps along a mile of the cave. The last sump, however, so the 5th sump, the one right before Chamber 3, contains the tightest squeeze of them all. It's less than 100 feet into the last sump, and the guideline goes through a curtain of stalactites, which is like the rocks that hang down from the ceiling. It is 20 inches wide at its narrowest point.
That's not even 2 feet.
Yeah. But there is a wider passage 6 feet deep, which they find with the like LiDAR scans like a year later. But at this point, if the divers had chosen that, it would have required the divers to feel along the wall instead of the guideline, and then it's impossible to get the guideline back.
Right.
So the divers end up pulling the guideline down a bit so that they can use a wider area. But when you pull the line down, you add tension to the line, which then makes it more difficult to hang on to. However, this actually is helpful for the team that is at Chamber 3 that's like waiting for the diver and the kid, because they can see the line get tension on it, and they know that the next group has like gotten close. And so they would tell each other, quote, "fish on," to alert each other that someone was about to surface.
Probably not the first day, but once you can do it successfully once,
day,
there's a bit
like,
more levity.
"Fish on."
Nice.
Yeah. In Chamber 3, Jason successfully passes off note.
Okay.
To medical professionals and other experts.
Having done the most dangerous portion of the trip.
That is arguably the most dangerous. Like, the first kid was arguably the one that kind of everyone was expecting might not make it.
Right.
You know? So he hands him off. They put him on a stretcher and carry him the remaining half mile to the entrance. He gets on the ambulance and gets to the hospital. By 7:50 p.m.
Imagine, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, like, you're sedated in the middle of this mountain, like, deep in this cave, surrounded by your friends. You've been there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're sedated. And when the sedation wears off, you're in this white hospital bed. There's a window, like...
Terrifying.
There's disorienting. There's like when you're staying in a hotel and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, where am I for a second? Yeah. But like that on steroids. I mean,
literally,
it has to be,
all
right?
on ketamine, but I couldn't resist.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
$6 shrimp special. I know we're going to have to cut that. That's not going to make any sense.
Explain it now.
I don't know. Maia sent me this incredible Instagram video. And it was like, Jesus is the Lord and the light and the way. It's like this digital ad outside this business. And it's like scripture, Jesus is the light, the Lord and the way. The only way to Jesus is through him. $6 shrimp special as the digital screen clearly changes to the next prompt.
I think about that at least twice a day now. $6 shrimp special. It's the voice too that kills me.
And it gets like kind of like a flash of light for a second.
$6 shrimps.
I'm like, who has $6 shrimps in this economy? You know?
Yes. Oh, anyway, boys.
Right. He wakes up in the hospital. Note, survives.
Yes. By 7:50 on that first day of the rescue, all of the first 4 boys that have been rescued are successful. They've all made it to the hospital or at least all made it out of the cave. It's been 11 hours. Actually, 11 hours until the last boy makes it to chamber 3. So it's not even like getting all the way out, but like safe from the severe danger. So they have now proved that
the system can work.
That the system works, but now each diver has to do the whole thing 2 more times over the course of the next 2 days. So one of the kind of support divers who's in charge of replacing air tanks at the halfway point, Ivan Karadazik, he remembers how stressful that first extraction was, saying, quote, "I didn't know if it was a casualty or a kid, but when I saw that he was alive and breathing, it felt very good." So remember that first photo, or that photo I showed you, this one that shows like how? So this is that in action. You can kind of see the kid on the pulley system being pulled up out of the cave.
Wrapped 8 different ways with like protective layer and plastic. And like
blankets probably, and he's probably still kind of out cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. So, day 17, July 9th, the second group of 4 boys are successfully delivered to chamber 3 after 9 hours. So they've now cut 2 hours off. Impressive.
They know they're out a little bit more.
Yeah. Day 18, July 10th. This is the day that the last 4 boys, as well as the coach, are set to be rescued. I don't have a ton of information on how the coach was rescued.
Okay.
I saw sources saying that he was also sedated, but I also don't know how he was like brought through, if that's the case. Maybe he came through with the medic and the like Navy SEALs or whatever. He clearly had some like meditative techniques. So
he
maybe
was like,
he was
I won't panic in the same way a young person might.
I'm not sure if he was sedated or not, or how he really made it. I know that he made it. So July 10th, again, this is the day that the locals say the cave would be completely flooded by.
Okay.
So it's I think the rain is starting. Maybe it's pretty light. Chris Jewell was rescuing the 11th boy. So the second to last boy.
Okay. I thought there was 13 kids in there.
12, and then one is the
adult
assistant coach. Yeah. The 11th boy is 13-year-old Sampong Jaiwong. I think his nickname is Pong. 2 hours in, he is entering sump 5. So the last sump before chamber 3. Remember, there's that section with the stalactites they have to pull down on the guideline. So there is a spot where the dive line goes around a corner and it's pulled tight kind of around a boulder. So this is a separate area, not the stalactites necessarily, but another area where the guideline is really tight. And unfortunately, the line slips out of his fingers. The visibility is near 0, so he can't see which way to go or where the line is. And he's kind of sweeping his arm out around him, but can't find the line again. 4 minutes in, he still can't find the line, but he finds something he thinks might be the line, and it's an electrical cable that has been laid in the early days of the rescue. Maybe like a light or something in one of the air pockets. And so he follows it. This line, however, does not lead him out, but kind of around and back the way he came. It's like kind of a roundabout, what I saw from the 3D rendering. So instead of leading him out like to the outside of it, it kind of leads him back around to where he started. And so luckily he like gets back to the air, but then he's like, oh, shit.
I know what chamber I'm in, and it's not the right one.
Where am I? And so luckily Chris recognizes where he was and is able to relocate the dive line and continues the rescue and makes it successfully.
Okay, so he has enough ketamine in the kid's system.
It works out. So all 12 boys and the coach are successfully out of the cave, as well as the Navy SEAL divers and the medic who are staying with them.
Okay.
By the time everyone is out, the water levels are rising around 30 centimeters an hour.
Oh, wow.
AKA about a foot an hour.
Even with the pumps going.
However, shortly after the last of the Navy SEALs were out, there's a little disagreement on what happens here. Some reports say that one of the pumps like gives out, and then there's another report that says that no, they were turned off.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what happens. Either way, feels dramatic.
Okay.
Either way, this results in the waters kind of rushing in and making the situation incredibly more dangerous.
Because the pumps were doing actually quite a bit.
Yes, actually quite a bit. Especially with the rain coming down. So some sources report that Ake, the assistant coach, was notably the weakest of the group because he had refused to eat any of the food that had been brought to him, instead giving it to the boys. Because remember the letters that the divers were taking back and forth between the boys and their family. Ake had lost his parents at a young age, but he wrote instead to his aunt and grandmother and probably godmother saying he was fine, saying, quote, "Do not worry too much about me. Take good care of your health. Please prepare vegetable juice and pork rind for me. I'll have them when I get out. Thanks." Same.
Something simple. I don't want to upset my stomach.
Yeah.
He's
like, please also make good food for me. Thank you.
Sensible man.
Yeah, exactly. So all said and done, 23 countries contributed to the rescue effort. More than 7,000 volunteers doing everything from cooking meals to running pumps to drivers to laundry, people that were assisting with laundry. The water pumped out of the cave, I mentioned this earlier, ruined the crop of the rice fields nearby, and the farmers did not ask for any compensation for their lost wages. Chris Jewell, one of the divers, said, quote, "Things that seem impossible aren't always so. Difficult things can be achieved and amazing things can happen." This is a picture of the boys in the hospital with a photo of the diver who died.
Fallen diver.
Yeah, Suman.
They're so young.
They're so young.
Especially the two in green. Like,
Yeah.
they're so young.
Some of them, like, I think one of them was like 11 or something like that.
And,
That's-
like, kind of clearly a little malnourished. Like, a little
Yes.
2
Yeah.
weeks without any food. But
yeah.
they're so young.
Yeah. Yeah. So after the fact, 3 of the boys, as well as Ake, the assistant coach, were considered stateless, meaning they like didn't have a Thai citizenship despite being born in Thailand, which I don't understand the whole geopolitical status there. But after this incident, they were awarded full Thai citizenship, which is good. 3 months after the incident on TV, Chris and Jason, 2 of the British divers that were the 2 that were rescuing, or 2 of the 4, they were reunited with the boys that they saved. Interestingly, they didn't know their names at the time of the rescue.
Oh, okay.
They knew them by the number that they were rescued by. So they were like, "Oh, I know I rescued you because you were number like 5 or whatever like that." And so this was the first time that they were able to like actually meet them.
that they took care
Yes. So many of the divers, the SEAL team divers, as well as experts and other like medical professionals involved in the rescue, have received awards. Richard and Craig, the 2 Australian divers / doctors, received Australian of the Year awards in 2019. It's a fucking insane
I'm
award.
sure that's an amazing, but maybe keep workshopping the name a little bit more.
That needs a couple more
Like, we use the word laureate, you know, here in the U.S.
Australian of the Year. $6 shrimp special.
Just a picture of on every roadside meat pie stand.
Yes.
Just Australian of the Year.
Yes.
And then right below that, Employee of the Month.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that was 2019. John and Rick, 2 of the British divers, were awarded honorary degrees from the University of Bristol in 2022. Jason was awarded an honorary degree from Huddersfield University in 2019. John and Rick were also awarded the George Medal, and then Jason and Chris were awarded the Queen's Gallantry Medal from Queen Elizabeth. All of those happened in 2018. A year after the incident, Thai authorities reopened the cave to the public, and it is a huge tourist attraction.
I could imagine.
Yes. While you can explore up to 300 meters into the cave, there is now a metal barricade after that prevents thrill seekers from trying to get to the rescue point.
I could bet that. So can you get to Chamber 3?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's
unclear.
Chamber 3 was half a mile in, and I can't do that math right now. I've drank too much wine. 300 meters in is where the metal grate is. You can't go past that even during dry season, unless, of course, you're paid by Nat Geo to make a 3D rendering, and then you can.
Then you get special permission,
then you can do that. So here's a quote from one of the tourist people, managers, whatever. Quote, "During the week, we now get about 1,000 visitors a day. On weekends, about 2,000. Entry is free, and there's a shuttle bus running constantly between a nearby parking lot and the cave entrance." And don't scroll, but this is what the cave entrance looks like.
Oh, wow. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, right? And it's also huge. Like, you wouldn't think it constricts that much.
Yeah.
And then this is Dr. Richard Harris, being presented with an award for bravery by the Explorers Club of Australia.
Cute. He's the one on the far left,
Yes.
I'm assuming,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Love the idea that this guy just coming up in a jeans
jeans
and a blazer.
sport coat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
So Australian.
Yeah.
Make that man Australian of the year.
$6 shrimp special. We're offending someone somewhere, I know.
I'm sure we are. And even if we're not offending, I'm sure it's like just plain not funny.
They're like, I don't get it.
But for us,
$6 shrimp special.
we will have to try to post it on the Instagram story.
I will make sure that happens. Yeah.
When this up, if we just post it now, people are going to be like, "What is this?"
Okay. 1 year later, the 12 boys, as well as the coach, return to the entrance, and I'm not sure entirely what they're doing. It seems like some kind of ceremony, probably commemorating the event. This is the boys at that time.
I know there's been like Netflix shows and stuff like this, but it's like, do you stay friends or do like they had this formative experience, but they're also young people.
Yes.
With like a 6-7 year age difference between the youngest and the oldest. They're just having different life experiences.
It does seem like, from what I've heard from the relatives, they try to stay in touch, but it seems very realistic in that they're like,
it's a high school
gone their
reunion
separate
in
ways,
some ways,
you know? Like they do message each other, but
and I think actually, sorry, this is almost 100% the wine talking now.
Yeah.
But I actually think that's what's so cool about the human experience is that we can have this formative moment, and I want to care for you because you're a person. That's it. Like that's the only qualifier. Like I care for you, and then we'll get older and we'll grow apart. But like, I'm glad you survived. We had this experience, right? Like people who are willing to volunteer for their crops to be ruined, to do extra labor for free, for people that they're not going to really ever have a conversation with.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a bronze statue of Saman Kunan, the one Thai Navy SEAL who died, that now stands at the entrance or near the entrance of the cave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who volunteered to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a cool photo.
It's a
cool
photo.
statue.
Also, he has a 8-pack or some shit. So
I was like, I have never once been rendered that positively in any piece of media.
Like statue creator a raise. Oh my god. Okay. So as for the boys, here is what I could find. I couldn't find updates on all of them.
Sure. Some of them are still actively minors.
Yes. So here is what I could find. I am going to warn you. This first one is a little sad. So I'll give a trigger warning at that time. Dugampet Promtep, aka Dom, who was the team captain, he got a scholarship to Brooke House College Football Academy in 2022. I think this was as a result of someone that came from Thailand that was like a pretty well-known football soccer player.
Sure.
So when he got that scholarship, he posted on social media, quote, "Today my dream has come true," he announced on social media. Very brief trigger warning for mentions of suicide. Skip forward like 5 seconds. He did pass from suicide at age 17 in February of 2023. And that's all for that. The next ones are only happy, I promise. Punamas Songdi, aka Mig, also attended Brooke House alongside Dom for about 3 weeks in 2019, so well before any of the sad parts happened. I'm not sure why he left or if he was actually ever going there fully, but reports say that he and Dom were inseparable for the duration of their stay. Adul Saman, he is the one English speaker of the group. He was 14 at the time. He's like 20 now. But after the events of the cave rescue, at some point he came to the U.S. for, I think, to finish out high school. He went to the master's school, which is outside of New York City, with a full scholarship in 2020. And then he was also the captain of the soccer team. He graduated high school in 2023 at the age of 19, and his rescuer, Rick Stanton, was there to congratulate him and give him his diploma. He has plans to attend Middlebury College.
Wow.
I'm not sure if
it's a great school.
Yeah, really? Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. But
for a kid who left his family at 14, learned 4 different languages. I mean, his life's very different than anyone else, but wow.
So he had plans to attend Middlebury College. I don't know if that actually happened or if he went somewhere else. Obviously, that was 2023. So
only a year ago.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Here's a quote from him. We have to keep adjusting to the environment where you are in order to survive. You have to keep adapting your life. According to his great uncle, who is also his guardian, he had wanted to work at the UN. So maybe that's something he's working towards. And then don't scroll down. But this is him playing soccer at Masters.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Phonchai Tham Luang, aka T, now plays professional football, or did play professional football with Chiang Rai Lana.
A lot of them became soccer players
Yes.
or like followed that. Wow.
That team is a Thai team that's the nation's 3rd division, and then he now plays for Mei Fa Luang University. Another boy, Chanin Vibulrongrong, Titan. He plays he plays football at an academy run by Ake, the assistant coach.
Oh, wow.
He said, in response to how this whole situation kind of affected him, quote, "At first it was very difficult. I had to adjust myself," he said. "A lot of people knew about me and I didn't know how to act. I felt tense when I was in front of the camera or being interviewed." And then in regards to Ake, the assistant coach, who was only 25 at the time of the incident, which is...
When one of his players is 17.
Yes,
like he's
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He sets up the aforementioned football academy to help young Thai children reach their potential. And he has a very like healthy outlook on it. He's like, I just want to be here essentially for the kids. Like they could go on to never play soccer again.
Right.
They could go on to live out their dreams as a professional soccer player. Like either way, I'm glad to have them.
Right.
I will close out the story with a quote from Jason Mallinson, the one who rescued the first kid. Note, quote, "Don't miss out on opportunities to do something different, something outside the box. You never know where they might take you. Be confident in your abilities and ignore your detractors." And that's that.
All right. Well, I know so much more about this and I appreciate it because like my own fear of like caves and descending and stuff would have fully stopped me from ever
thinking about this.
any of this. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Just the people are inherently okay most of the time.
There is a part of me that wonders what stories we would be doing right now if the election had turned out differently. Because it's clear you and I are like, I need a little joy.
Yeah.
I need a little fun. You and I somehow both need a little turkey in our lives.
I feel like we still would have done the same things where we were like, phew.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, now we've escaped fascism.
Right. Now let's really get into it, you know? An 8-part miniseries on the Constitution. You're listening to The American Experience.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Well, I Laughed and Unilever. Could you imagine if we had the Unilever money?
No.
This was good. No, honestly, it was fantastic. You did, as always, such a great job. You found a lot of great photos. A very visual episode.
There's a lot of photos out there.
Can't wait to post the visuals for this story.
You're welcome.
What? A week after Thanksgiving? 2 weeks? Nice.
Yeah. If you're interested in learning more, there's the documentary that I based most of the story off of is the Drain the Oceans one. It's available on YouTube. It's like 40 minutes long.
The documentary is called Drain the Oceans?
No, the series, remember the one that hired that team? It's called Drain the Oceans by Nat Geo. Literally just Google Thai Cave Rescue Nat Geo, and it's like Thai Cave Rescue, full episode, Drain the Oceans. And anyway,
or
it's
just stream our podcast anywhere you get podcasts.
Fascinating. And you can see all the 3D renderings that they made of the cave, which is really cool. But there's also a lot of photos out there because press was there for
2 weeks,
16 days or 18 days or something like that. So there's a lot of information out there if you're interested. There's a lot of documentaries and live action remakes or whatever.
Well, I'm thoroughly impressed.
Yeah,
well
I
done.
don't know what to title this episode, so
I actually in the last 5 minutes have been trying to.
I have also.
Swimming in it. Nope. Okay, doesn't like that. We'll keep working on it. Anything else you want to tell the good people out there?
I don't think so.
I do need to give them an update, just real quick.
Okay.
I have started to work on the Whoville saying for the holiday Whomeister. It will be ready in time for Christmas. And when I'm in...
He's ready like Moira Rose.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. Because here's the thing, too. Day after Thanksgiving, Thomas family, we get a tree. And it goes up. And it's a real tree. And it usually has lights on and stuff for Saturday when I can... Right. I don't even know. I don't know. But I will then have the backdrop needed for my Whoville Holiday Hubermeister.
As long as you also do it on the podcast.
Correct. Right. Okay. Amazing. Right.
Yes.
We can post it the same day we post $6 special.
I can't get over. It's so funny. $6 shrimps.
What's so crazy too is that I have learned the words of the scripture that it's quoting. Like Jesus is the Lord and the light and the way, and I am the only way to salvation.
Is through him or
$6 shrimps.
So funny.
And it gets back to something that I said weeks ago that is now painfully, almost clairvoyantly true. Well, I've lost the phone number. I'm glad someone can call and I'm up. Someone's up there.
They have a $6 shrimp special up there. Okay.
No, wonderful job. I am, of course, now hungry.
Yes.
Because
I have some pepper jack.
My body's like, I would like some cheese.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this, please send this episode to your friends. That would be cool. That'd be great.
Also, rate us 5 stars.
Rate us 5 stars. Trying to get that early on in the speech. Yeah. If you enjoyed us, you can find some of our content on social media where we are Well I Laughed. You can find us on YouTube for the visual episode where we are Well I Laughed podcast. And you can find additional content on Patreon where we are Well I Laughed podcast.
And if you want to be the first person that ever orders a cameo from us.
Oh, fun. Yes.
Even though we'll probably just do it for free if
well,
you email us. But
also
if you want to go through Cameo, that would be really great.
Remember our conversation earlier upstairs with Casey about... Anyways, I'll talk about it later.
Okay, cool.
And lastly, if you have a story you would like to share, maybe you've been trapped at sea. You know who you are. Maybe you've been trapped in a cave.
One specific farm.
Maybe you've been buried below. Whatever it is, we would love to hear it.
Just let us
and write
know.
into us at welilaughedpod@gmail.com. You'll share email space with actual interviews we're suddenly doing with people.
Yeah.
Until then, friends.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
Love you.